Her team was that when we get to ground zero again, that everything will be squared away, and we're back to an even keel and moving forward again after this has been resolved. So that's up there.
Yep. If there's no further questions on the floor, I'd just like to go to Renee and get an overview from the auditor's perspective. That's very good.
Thank you very much, Ash, and thank you everyone. It's lovely to be here in person. Just a couple of remarks from my side. I'm going to kind of mirror probably what Lania said. So our audit is complete. It took a little bit more time and effort this year than what we originally planned, and that's why we are so late in the year with this. But we are ready to issue the audit report once council has today decided to sign and adopt the annual report and the summary audit report of the summary annual report. Sorry. As you know, and as it's been mentioned, the opinion is qualified. And you would have seen in the draft opinion that it reads that except for the details noted around the PPE matters, we do consider the financial statement and the disclosures to be fairly stated. So that qualification is ring-fenced to PPE. And just to be clear, in terms of that audit opinion, that we are not reporting that those numbers are wrong. We are saying that we could not obtain efficient and appropriate audit evidence to confirm the accuracy and completeness across a number of areas that the PPE touches in your annual report. We don't issue qualified opinions lightly. It's a real intense process in the background. It's scrutinized, considered by a team of people to make sure that is the appropriate decision to make in this situation, and that it's the best course of action going forward. So to close off, just a thank you to management, to the Risk and Assurance Committee, and to council and everybody that's supported this process and helped assist us through the audit. So thank you very much. It's been an intense process, but I'm happy to be at the end of it today.
Thanks very much, Renee. I just one of my pet things when I was the previous mayor was analysing the audit fees, and I've noticed that in 3 years, I think from memory, when I wasn't here previously, but 3 years ago, the audit fees were around about 130 to 140 if there was something going on. And I noticed now that, we're looking at $250,000, so for audit fees, and then apparently it's going to be like that for the LTP. So it's a significant jump in that respect, and I believe the Auditor General is looking at maybe some ways of reducing the cost of councils for the audit fees, because a lot of pressure on ratepayers out there, and that's quite a significant jump. So, and saying that, I am comfortable that audit go through, councils, and it gives us a level of confidence that things being done well, and so I appreciate that. But yeah, that'd probably be a conversation next year we'll have around the fees. Okay, thank you. Is there any questions for Renee? Oh, no.
Oh, no, if I can, I don't want to cut off any questions, but I'd like to say something if I can. Look, first I'd like to thank council, this council and the previous council, for your tolerance around this annual report. We've had plenty of experience of annual reports, but for whatever reason, this one has been hectic, and your tolerance to our efforts to have to brief you very quickly about the annual report, and most particularly to get information to in a very short time frame, is very much appreciated and not taken for granted. Second, I'd like to extend my thanks to Renee, Panika, and the leadership team for our audit. Yes, we've had our struggles, but we certainly acknowledge and thank you for your efforts to ensure that we try to hit our targets as we wanted to, and to be receptive to us about the issues that we've raised with you, as you have raised with us. So very my thanks again to you, and it's really lovely to see our audit director in our boardroom today, so especially from Renee to be here, so thank you, Renee. And last but not least, I'd like to thank our team, Kelly, your team, which includes Lania, Sandra, and we have Olivia here, as well as our governance team, in terms of ensuring that we could get through this process and get information out to our council and to our assets team, who are not in the room, but also a big part of this to this annual report. I have a lot of pride in our team. They set very high standards. They want to deliver the best they can for you as a council in our community. We know we can always improve, and we will look to improve. But very, very thankful and appreciate. Oh, sorry, I don't want to. I almost missed out acknowledging Ken Morris, who's been on board for us since I've taken over the CEO role, who's provided a guiding hand, and I know your assistance has been very much appreciated by our whole team. It's been a massive team effort, and I can stand in front of you or sit in front of you with my hand on my heart and say this annual report is an accurate report that I am fully endorse and willing to back with anybody, public or anybody else. So just my appreciation to all of you for the part that you've played to get us to this point in our last meeting of the year. Thank you, Mayor Ash.
Okay, so I'd like to turn our attention to the recommendation. Have we got someone that would be prepared to pass the recommendation? Gary, thank you, Gary. Good move there. And have we got a seconder? Grace, I'll take Grace. All in favour, please say aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Renee, for being with us, and wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we'll catch up in the new year for sure. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 7.3, and James Thomas, who is chairing that meeting, will take us through the report. Thank you, James.
I think I've been upgraded. I did not chair the meeting. I was Deputy Mayor James Sainsbury and Muna were the co-chairs and did a very good job. Look, and probably James online, since he chaired it, he's probably more qualified to give an opinion on the meeting, so I can very easily just pass that over to James.
No, I'll leave it to you, Councillor Thomas. You are probably easier to present in person. Yep.
All right, there we go. So we go a bit of to and fro. Look, to be fair, it was a mainly procedural meeting. There was some discussion actually around how much procedure we do in those meetings going forward. That was a little bit of probably off the record conversation because that meeting probably doesn't need the same degree of input about council goings that say the TMF does. So hopefully we get a little bit more of a leaner and meaner structure going forward. But like I say, it was mainly procedural. It was meeting and greeting the new member, which is James on this occasion, and just setting the work the work for the next year. Just looking at things that were just some. We're still obviously waiting for the governance plan to come together, and until that's kind of signed off by all the parties and sat down, there's not a lot of change that will happen there. There was some and then there were some minor discussions around things like, for example, just better communication between the marae and the user groups, e.g. when there's a significant tangi on there, they don't appreciate the planes kind of banking over the marae, which is fair enough. So yeah, so really there was just that was really all there was. Until we can get that master plan together, we're still treading water to some degree. James, have you got anything to add on that?
Yeah, no, I think captured that really well. Thank you, James.
Okay. So I haven't taken any questions, but yeah.
Any questions for James? Are you happy to lead?
Yeah, sure. Just have to amend it.
And I'm happy to second that. Yeah.
Yep. James T, and I've got to put James S as seconding that. Thank you, James. And James, all in favour, please say aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, item 7.4, we have the Matamata-Piako report. And Tuatahi, welcome.
Good morning, Council. I'm just presenting this report on behalf of Chairperson Tina Matamata-Piako, as she could not be here this morning. Sends her apologies. As similar to the previous report, the Matamata-Piako Forum was re-established as a committee of council on the 9th of December. And I will take the report as read, but would like to give a brief overview and open to any questions that you may have. We welcome back the iwi representatives and also our worship here and Deputy Mayor alongside Councillor Matamata-Piako to the event, with a lot of the house being very packed with a lot of the iwi representatives. The re-establishment of the committee meant that we adopted the standing orders, all the procedural types of reports, and it's required to be a committee of council with further extension into the discussion around some of the key areas for the next coming year. One robust discussion with regards to the Waitangi and Matamata-Piako grant application, which we're hoping to kind of get that finalised in the next couple of weeks. Yeah. Any part of any questions from the floor?
Any questions for Tuatahi? Andrew?
Yeah, thanks for the report, Tuatahi. Yeah, I support the increase in the chair's remuneration. I mean, that hasn't happened since 2004 by the looks of it. So I think that's a fair recommendation. My question is not only just about the Matariki and Waitangi grants, but probably all grants actually, to be fair. Now that we're on a 4% cap, we're going to be on a 4% cap, I'm looking, everything's on the table in my mind. And is this a core council function to fund these sort of things? And is there a business case behind these grants, as in what is the effort to the community financially, socially, etc., and do we see a real benefit for it?
That kind of dives, your question in particular dives a bit more into another area which we could potentially look into a bit later on, and different team altogether to kind of would be appropriate to answer that question. And I think they'd be happy to answer that question a bit later on.
Not available.
Thanks, Ed. Any further questions to the table? If not, have I got someone that will move that the report be received? Dave and Andrew seconds. All in favour, please say aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you to it. Okay, so we've got and Jenny, and it's the adoption of fees and charges for the Open Country Community Stadium. So this is the new stadium that's just in the finishing stages as we speak. Thank you, Jenny.
Good morning, councillors. So, as per the previous authors, I'll take the report as read, but understanding that the stadium is due to open in late January to the community, and as part of being able to operate that stadium, we do need some fees and charges set by the council for those operations. And wanting to draw particular emphasis to the request in the report that the fees and charges, the recommendation from staff is to set the fees at the level that is being proposed for your 26-27 fees and charges, so that you are not opening the stadium, charging one price and then looking to increase them again from July. The community will, of course, have the opportunity to have their say and submit on those fees as part of your annual fees and charges consultation, but we are looking for these particular ones to be set earlier to meet that operational need. Welcome any questions.
James Thomas.
Yeah, no, very logical, Jenny. So yeah, I think what you're doing. It was just a point. It's another recommendation. It's covered well, but when you read the report, where we've got the option A, option B, so you've got the commercial and non-commercial flipped around.
Apologies.
Which was confusing me just more than a little bit, going, why are we doing that? But so there's a mistake in the discussion, but not in the recommendation. So just a point of clarification around that.
Apologies.
That's right. As long as it's okay in the recommendation, then we're good to go. So yeah, and so I'm happy with that recommendation, Gary.
Yeah. Hey James, just on that, do you just want to comment, you know, at the meeting the other night, maybe just on give the councillors a brief update, i.e. the leasing coming up in the...
Yeah, absolutely can. So as Judy alluded to, we're near the finish line with that, and we saw that obviously in our Matamata bus trip the other day. So so there is because our whole idea is for the facility to be ready for the start of the school year, which it is on track to do. So there will be a blessing on site on the 22nd of January, Thursday the 22nd of January. Local EV will leave a blessing from, I think, 6:30 in the morning, and there will be invitations at the council, I believe, in due course. And there will be an official opening ceremony, which effectively opens it to the public. Not sure if the public are using it before the official opening, Jenny, question mark. But that's Saturday, the 21st of February.
So at this stage, we have no bookings accepted before the official opening, other than what's required for those preparations.
Yeah, I thought that was the case. So Saturday 21st, and seems like the both the Magic Netball ladies are going to play an exhibition match to kick it off after all the official palaver in the morning. So well on track, and there was some good discussion the other day. I think Manaio had the user agreement is just about hammered out now, isn't it, in terms of school versus community. So that's been chugging along for a while, but I think we had good input again from Sport by Canada the other day, which helped in getting it pretty much across the line. So do you have anything more on that, Manaio?
Oh no, it's your report is complete. I can't add anything. But it's just great that we've got everything lined up for when we need to have it lined up.
Yeah, getting there. We've got one more meeting, and then I think we become redundant. I hope meeting. So yeah, but it's coming together well.
Yeah, and well done to holding that all together there, James. Any further questions?
I just want to note that updated recommendation has been circulated separately, just to reflect the discussion that was held at the council workshop last year. So the only change is to the court access fees, both increased by $5.
Yep, that's fine. Okay, so with that moved by James Thomas, have we got a second at Dane? Thank you, Dane. All in favour, please say aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, item 7.6, and we have a huge welcome to the Waitoa community in the room. Welcome. I appreciate being here.
We have the Waitoa Community Panel representatives here for to present their report recommendations. We had Tim and Joe who were voluntold to speak on behalf of the panel, and it's wonderful to see so many of the panel members here to support. I think that's a reflection on the process and where the group arrived at. Now, you're welcome to question about the recommendations, but also about the process. I will be coming back to you at a later point to give you a report on how the process all came together. So you will be getting more detail around that. But if you'd like to ask them about their experience, you're most welcome to. I will just share I know it's been circulated. Put that up on the screen for you.
Just while Andrea's getting that on the screen, I'd just like to thank Council for allowing us to speak today, but also for allowing the entire process of having a community panel, and also to all the staff that did all the behind the scene work that went into getting the information to us to make our recommendations. We do acknowledge that Council might not agree with some of our recommendations, and we understand that some of these may be beyond Council control, but we would like Council to keep these in mind as the process unfolds.
Yeah, morning everyone. We're Ash Manaya, they're our familiar faces. Like we've been through this process now for several years, even when Mayor Ash was the mayor way back then. So right. There are two familiar faces. So yeah, it's nice to, for you guys to invite us and give us the opportunity to speak to you guys today. Yeah, so we had the Waitoa community sort of maintained this relationship with Fonterra over, we've sort of documented 30 years, but it really has stretched over a period of about 50 years now in our community. It's been a really healthy relationship, and yeah, we've had sort of water meetings over this period of time for decades now. So I've lived in the community for now 30 years, and yeah, we've had these ongoing water issues. With the council now involved, we set up our 15-person panel from the Waitoa community. It was formed to deliberate on this issue. We've had 4 meetings over a 7-week period to maintain recommendations back to council on how the water will be supplied to Waitoa in the future. This issue affects approximately 130 residential homes out of about, I think it's about 300 in our area. The panel has gone through several sources of information, including listening to speakers on the issue, as well as having a chance to question those speakers who are experts and have strong knowledge in their fields. So after we were presented with all the information, there were 3 options that we looked at. One was self-supply, which included rainwater bores, our own community established bore, and council supply. So once we sort of went through all the information that we had, we really only had two options to explore, and one was council supply and the other was self-supply. So what we've done here is we've got a presentation for you, just putting together all our facts and all our recommendations to council, and we'll just go through those. Thank you.
So our core recommendation to council is that the panel recommends council supply on the understanding that the Waitoa ratepayers are liable for 15% of the projected cost, as noted in documents that we received. Our rationale for this is that it is a safe and reliable option. It provides future proofing with modern infrastructure. It allows for firefighting capacity. It absolves residents of the responsibility of maintenance. It is the most economically viable proposal to the Waitoa residents. It adds value to the Waitoa community. And we note that Fonterra's contribution towards the Waitoa community is a pivotal factor for getting full panel support for this decision. And it would only apply to the council supply option. When this process began, the panel was quite split on self-supply and council supply. But upon hearing about the Fonterra contribution, that shifted many people's view.
So in just sort of relation to the funding contributions, so I think this was probably the biggest topic of conversation throughout our consultation period. And I mean, if we all had an option to say, hey, who wants council? If there was no financial restraints, there wouldn't be a person in our community that wouldn't opt for council. But I mean, realistically, we've got that 15% as a community that we have to look at contributing towards. So we had Philippa from Fonterra present to us that that Fonterra do have $500,000 that they are prepared to contribute towards that 15%. And so the panel recommends that the council honour the original intent of Fonterra's contribution by applying the $500,000 towards the 15% contribution costs for the impacted Waitoa residents. And the rationale behind that was that Fonterra's contribution has consistently been communicated by senior management as a dedicated fund to support Waitoa residents affected by the water supply issue. Council representatives have been present during these discussions and are therefore aware of the intent behind this commitment. And the other, I mean, just put some context around it. I mean, we've got, our community is sort of, there's a lot of families in our community with young children, and there's also a lot of senior citizens, you know, that are retired. So we have a really mixed community of people that, yes, can afford this, you know, to pay this 15%, and others that it's going to be a real struggle for them, like financially. So we invested a lot of time in this space and thoughts around how can we come up with things to maybe sort of alleviate that pressure on the families that are struggling, especially with the cost of living, because it is a concern for some residents. So, you know, we're aware that the Waitoa Hall had been sold and that the funds haven't been utilised yet. So we would like to put a recommendation for. The panel recommends that the council allocate the prorated funds from the sale of the Waitoa Community Hall, and we did reach out to council and we were given a figure of $386,000, which would be the prorated amount attributed to the 130 residents impacted by it. Applying the funds on a clearly defined pro rata basis, distributing only among the residents impacted by the water supply change, and ensures transparency, fairness and continuity in how historic community contributions are used. So the rationale behind this is the Waitoa community contributed to the former community hall through their rates, and funds generated from the sale represent a community asset originally paid for by the local residents or supported. Suggestion, if council were to consider applying Fonterra's contribution to expedite the front-loaded design of okay, so I might put some context before I read this out. So it was sort of discussed with us that potentially that Fonterra 500, I mean that the money for Fonterra could have been used to pay upfront costs versus attributing it to the 15% impacted. So we sort of put this down as just a little bit, I guess, a bit of information about our thoughts around that. Is that if but then when I did actually say to us that there was no intent and no plans for that $500,000 in upfront costs. So there was a little bit of information that we don't have a lot of clarity on. But if that Fonterra $500,000 was going to be used for upfront costs, the panel had a discussion around could it still be attributed if it was used here to that 15% later in the project, if they were going to use it to kickstart the project once Fonterra have, and money over.
Is it a good opportunity to get Naya to comment on that as you, do you want to give a context around that?
Okay, yes, okay. I think the comments about, so if I could just make a comment on that one because I'll forget the 500,000 up front. I think in the discussions on advancing this project, it was identified that we have no funding in our plan to do any design work in our LTP or any plan to do any design work on the water supply. And I think what was discussed was if Fonterra give us the 500,000, that could be used to advance that design, given we've got no other funding. So I think there's a connection there, yes. But in terms of the 500,000 for council considered a report on the 25th of September 2024. And in that report, that's where the council at the time made the decision that it would ask the Waitoa community to pay 15% of the cost of the water supply, that it was prepared to go to the community on that 15%, and the rest of the water supply uses 85%. Now, in that report, there's no reference to the $500,000 from Fonterra. There's a number of reasons why. Number one, Fonterra has been absolutely supportive of this whole proposal and has talked about its 500,000 for quite a long time. I mean, I got involved in 2017. It's probably about 19, 18. They said, we're prepared to put some money in. So they've been very good. And they've had absolutely as far as I'm aware, there is no legal obligation for them to put any funding into this. That's as far as I'm aware. We have a legal obligation as council to assist to resolve this matter. But then council say, so that's why in the report in September 2024, there's no reference to 500,000, and council of that council made the decision to require 15% from the community because there is no obligation of Fonterra to give any money. So I know there has been a question about the original intent of Fonterra. What I would say for council is I have no doubt what Fonterra wanted to do. I've got absolutely no doubt. But there's been no formal discussion amongst that council about what should happen to the 500,000. There has been discussion, because what I mean by that is I know there was discussion around the matters, but there's been no formal approach or formal minute to say from council, oh, this is what will happen. On the 11th of June 2025, our mayor at the time received a letter from Fonterra saying, we need to get this money locked in by the 30th of June, otherwise the money could come under threat internally. So they asked us to sign an agreement, the mayor and myself, to sign an agreement for the 500,000. So this is if you like, the first formal approach that Fonterra made to the council to enter into an agreement for the 500,000. The agreement had two provisos in it. The council agrees. There was no question that Fonterra wanted money to go into the Waitoa water scheme. No question. And the agreement at that time said Fonterra will pay 500,000 to council. Council agrees the funds must be used either as a direct capital contribution to a council-owned or any successor entity, e.g. Waikato Waters, water supply and reticulation system, as a capital contribution, firstly, or as cash grants to each and every ratepayer within the defined water supply boundary to enable them to self-supply. I went back to them and said, look, if the community decides to say it's a self-supply, council's role is actually one of facilitation, not of financial. It is one of facilitation. So I said I cannot sign an agreement in relation to B, but what I can say is we can definitely commit to 2A, and we will refund you the 500,000 if the community decide not to go ahead with a capital contribution with a council scheme. So the two critical things for me are, number one, that council has never considered the 500,000, and it came to its decision on the 15%, knowing that the 500,000 was not part of that discussion formally. So that's number one. Number two, I have absolutely no doubt that Fonterra want to make sure this happens, and I understand that they have made a condition to the committee that we are only prepared to fund our public water supply now, not our self-supply. They're only prepared to do that, and they have definitely want that to go to the individuals. In other words, come off the 15%. Now, you haven't been in a position to have that discussion, but I have no doubt about their intent. Does that clarify? I'm happy to take questions.
Okay. I just thought it would be.
No, that's fine. No, that's
instead of
perfect.
coming
That's
back to it
absolutely
after.
perfect. That's given me
Yes.
context that needed. So thank you for that. And just with the understanding that once that is applied, it just, like when we were out there talking to people in our community that weren't part of our panel, you sort of saw that financial burden sort of ease a little bit for them, and maybe they could sort of flex within, you know, maybe that minimal less amount that they have to pay towards that upfront cost. So yeah, I just bearing in mind, and there's also that I think when it comes back to our hall and everything, the hall that's being sold, I mean, we have sort of had it said to us that, you know, maybe to benefit the whole community that a playground could be built, but I mean, realistically, we're not trying to be greedy. We're just sort of looking for options that we can use to try and minimise that financial burden. And our water now is a need. It's a basic human right. It's a need, and it's something that it's not like we're here asking for a playground for support financially with a playground, which is something that's a want, not a need. This is water. This is something that everyone needs in our community. So, I mean, if we were able to be given that consideration, I know that would be an amazing support to our community.
All right, on to sub recommendation 2. And this is the one that I know council does not have much control over, and that's about getting the process moving. So the panel recommends that council move with speed to begin the design and tendering process to reduce the effects of inflation on costs and reduce impact from the transition to Waikato Waters Limited. Simply put, the longer it's delayed, costs will rise. And I remember hearing Tani about rising cost of audits. This will also rise from the original, I think, $8 million figure that was put there. And that this has been going on for a long, long time, and we'd like to see some decision made. But also any fixed dollar contributions, such as $500,000, will lose its equivalent value in multiple years' time due to that inflation. Our next sub-recommendation is on repayment plans. So the panel recommends that 4 repayment options be available, that there is an upfront payment, a 3-year payment option, 5-year payment option, and 7-year option. And we recommend that the council communicates various options available that residents could take, such as rebates or advanced rate payments that could assist them in their financial payments. And this is simply put, different households have different ability to pay, and having many different options will ease the burden on some, and for those that can afford it, they can get it out of the way early, and without the potential added interest of a long-term payment.
Is there anybody in Waitoa that would struggle with even a long term payment?
I don't know of anyone specifically in the community that would struggle with a payment beyond 7 years. But there's a possibility.
Okay, but nobody you know of at this stage.
So nobody that I know of at this stage.
So I was going to have a question. You mentioned there's about 130 affected households. So are we talking about only those households prepaying or the whole of the community that is?
Just the 130 households.
Oh, shall we take questions after? I'm just thinking.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we'll just go back to
Okay, sub-recommendation 4, communication to the district. So the panel recommends that the council give clarity to the wider district council consultation process about the history and specific issues faced by the Waitua community. This must include the original intent of Fonterra's water supply system, why the system is no longer feasible, and the challenges to obtain safe and reliable drinking water for the Waitua community. So the rationale behind this is the history of water in Waitua is unique and it is complicated. There's multiple options have been explored, and the wider district should be aware of the reasoning for the recommendation that Fonterra has offered support to move the Waitua community to council supply. The wider district should be aware of the contributions made from any other parties, so see recommendation 1, and all communities have the right to safe, reliable and clean drinking.
So the panel did explore and reject other options such as self-supply and community support. And though there are a lot of households that have existing self-supply systems, the option is not viable for the majority of the households with no current self-supply. The panel were persuaded by the benefits of the greater community of council supply. Simply put, the other options were too expensive and required considerable ongoing maintenance, and there was no security of water supply in the future if droughts and other things were to eventuate. Oh, and one other point was that bores and tanks were not viable on many Waitua properties because of the septic systems and where they're placed, and then the regulations of placing tanks and placing bores. It becomes very, very complicated. That is the report.
I'll go to Grace with the question. Sorry to interrupt. Grace.
No, go fine. Absolutely fine. I do have a question, but I just wanted to say I love the council to community process, and thank you for coming. My question probably to Manaya, was there any allocation for that for funding, or is it just sitting there, or is it for something
Allocation.
like of the money?
So what we have done, to the point that's been made, there are things that we control and things that we can't control. So the water service delivery plan that's being produced for water is like the contract that we've entered into with our water regulators, that we will do all this work to ensure that we meet the requirements of the regulators. So that document has been signed off by council. In that document, because we hadn't got to a point where we had completed all our legal processes, we have put reference to this project saying it's happening and there will be a decision on it. So our focus has been, on one hand, to go through what we control, and on the other hand, to try and lock in all the processes necessary so that if the community decides to say yes, and then your wider community agrees with that we've got the legal processes in place, and then the funding, if you like, the design and everything else follows that. Because this is going to happen over the period of transition to Waikato Waters Limited. So we don't control everything there, but we're trying to make sure everything that we can do to make sure it happens, if the decision is to go ahead, can happen from a legal perspective. Now, so that's actually not about locking in money, that's about getting processes completed.
think the question is around the allocation, what the all money can be used.
Oh, okay, yes, sorry. Now, sorry, my apologies. That matter was referred to in the report in September 2024, where I'm pretty sure the report said there is an expectation from the community that these funds would be applied to this project. The council of the day did not make a decision on that at that meeting. There was a discussion on that issue, but there was no formal minutes of that. In other words, that is still a matter for the council to decide. Sorry, I misunderstood.
you're fine.
And just on that, a question, but because there's 130 properties that are looking at joining into the scheme, but there's 209. Yeah, 209. So would we have to consult with them about the use? If we were to use the whole money, it would have to go out and consultation on that, targeted consultation with those residents. Would that be correct?
Oh, sorry, I'll do.
No, that's okay. I don't mind. Probably don't need this. Look, in a strict legal sense, I don't believe that you have any requirement as such to consult the wider group. I think what I was saying is the people not involved in the Waitoa work, but they're involved in the Waitoa Hall. But I think that it would be wise if you are going to take funds that we use. This is just my advice, not legal. It would be wise that if you're going to take a portion of the funds that came from that hall rating area that were funded by the ratepayers, it would be wise to consider that. I just want to repeat too, what a point of legal clarification that we made in September last year is that it is for council to decide what happens to those funds. While they were raised in a particular way, which creates, if you like, a moral obligation, legally, it is for you to decide. And that's why I say there's actually nothing legally that says you need to go to the rest of the community. But my advice would be, it's an issue that you probably should discuss with them.
Definitely. Thank you. Bruce and then Dave.
Yes, that's an interesting dilemma I think we probably have, because we're talking 386,000, but if it was divided amongst the 209, it would be considerably less than what 386 divided by 130.
The 386,000 was the prorated amount that was provided to us. So I think there was.
Well, that's what I'm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say, I had the figure I reported as the total funds. I'm sorry, in the report in September was 372, which would have increased with interest at that point, because there would have been 2 years of interest to go on that. So I assumed that it's 130 over 209 is the pro rata of the fund.
The 3 years. So
that's what I'm sorry. That's my assumption.
To get it clear, the total funds being held is 386,000.
Yeah, that will be the latest.
Yeah,
that's not the pro rata.
No, that's where I just wanted that clarification, and so.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's where if the dilemma is whether you're going to say to the other 79 people or what ratepayers that your contribution over the years will not be given back to you, but given to the water. So that is a dilemma. But I don't know that that's significant. Can you go back to that September? How much was the figure, the 15% that was?
Look at that. Look, I can tell you that I can tell you what
round figures.
There's a number in my head that's stuck in my head from that. That actually.
We've given a figure of 11,000 to 13,000. Then additionally on top of that was the 2,500 for the backflow connection at each property. So took it to between 13 and 15.
So we could say 15,000, couldn't we? So the 15, I'm just trying to get it in there. Yeah, 15,000 for each of those 130, from which we could take 3,846 from the Fonterra money, and possibly 2,900 for the 300 from the 300. So yeah, it does bring it down to and you're realising that there is a figure that every other ratepayer, water paying ratepayer is paying. So yeah, I just wanted to get that clear. It is.
Okay.
Other than that, look, I think the process. I looked at it when you first proposed it, and I think what we're coming to is some very good decisions.
Thank.
So did you have something?
Just to speak on the finance one, when we did our calculations of those contributions, approximately half the amount that was being paid back through the rates, acknowledging that people still had costs for any of the connections on their property, and that would not be involved in the rates. And so those are kind of separate costs from that.
Thank you. Thank you.
A couple of things. I was just wondering, does the Waitoa community at the moment pay for the water from Fonterra the same as other ratepayers?
No, the water from Fonterra has been provided to us over the years because their coal burners were spitting all their coal into our roofs, and they were contaminating it. So they have, hooked us up through there.
Yes. So I just wondered how much, if it was taken into context that if you take on whatever this looks like, there you would be charged, if I'm correct, a water rate on top of what those repayments would be.
Yeah, we've had all those figures given to us.
Cool. Cool. And so, and the other question was based on the recommendations that you've made here. Where obviously there's more discussion to be had, but it's based on the 500,000 from Fonterra, whatever percentage of the haul may be. If it was the outcome was that you had the different funding options that you wanted, but you got the $500,000 from Fonterra and nothing else, would that change the way that the community would want to go about their water supply?
No, I think that when we had those conversations, we've got properties that can't put tanks on because of the proximity of their septic tank systems, and even because we're looking futuristically with climate change and everything, we're going to need quite a substantial, maybe even bigger tanks, and some of the properties don't have the space, from their septic tank to be able to. So we really came up with overall, even though it's not going to, it's not everybody's ideal solution, really, council supply is the only thing that is going to provide safe drinking water for every single person in the community, and it's going to have a cost attached to it, but it's the only thing that really is viable for us. Yeah.
Thank you.
I might just also comment on that. Although the 500,000 was a significant swaying factor in the panel members, we did recognise at the end that even if we did not get the 500,000, that council supply was probably the best option, and that we would still recommend it.
Yeah, and I think another thing that has been touched on is the firefighting capacity. Like, we've had fires out in our community where we've seen it start from here, and by the time the fire crew have got out there, that house has been burnt to the ground. So, that sort of investment in our community is, it's quite huge for us.
Sure.
The other 79 that don't have decided not to be part of this, there is always that build and that will come once you get going. Hey, I wouldn't mind. I've had to think about it. I wouldn't mind being part of that. Those 79, are we guaranteed that they don't want?
It was zoned, so we were given a zone, and that was the the properties that were zoned in that space. Right. Anything outside of that wasn't included in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The 79, of the 209, that's including adjacent farmers and.
Yeah, right, number one.
It's the wider rating, it's the wider rating.
There's nobody in there that says, no, okay, fine, got that clear. Thank you.
It's not.
I guess my question is just that, what sort of recommendation does the council need about now to make this project go forward?
Well, I think obviously you've heard quite strongly that the 500,000 has been, I think, is an issue that the community would like certainty on. You heard also in the introduction that it is accepted that there are some matters that are not in council's control. I think that was acknowledged. So I think the 500,000 seems to be a pretty key point. I suspect the hall contribution would be quite a significant point. I think those are. I mean, there's a process that follows from here, and I just want to manage expectations on what we can do. In my opinion, because the construction of this, if it is approved, will not go through. Won't go through next year or probably the year after. That's just the reality of getting contracts ready. Our best efforts are to try and ensure that this is locked in with our partner entity, Waikato Waters. So we do everything we do on our side, as well as advance our discussions with Waikato Waters to lock it in. So those are things that we can control to an extent, but we are in discussion. But I think the community, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the representatives are looking for clarity, if you're willing to, about the 500,000 and the whole contribution. Does that make sense?
When are we going to make?
Well, that's your
decision. There's a timeline in there. I thought I saw how things are going to go from here.
Consultation with the district Waikato Waters Limited will occur in 2026.
Yeah.
Item 4. Recommendation number 4. So we'll go to the recommendation. Oh, is it question?
Well, no, just on that recommendation. All right. I don't think that the recommendation as it stands is going to be clear enough. All right. I think, point 2, council confirms its conditions. I think it needs to be it needs to be 2, either A, B, C, or D, or what. And in 3, I think we need to almost have that. I don't think. Look, I'm fully in support of what's coming through. I just want to make sure that the recommendations give you a very clear path forward.
Thank you. So if I can clarify, thank you. That's probably a better response than I gave. That if recommendation, it's your position in respect of each of the recommendations.
Yes.
Like it's agreement. With
this. Yes. That would be, I think, the clarity that would help.
Yeah. Right. So sorry. Are we looking then to look at the report and the recommendations 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Yes, and I think the question is, which is for the council. So I don't know if you're ready to make that decision right now or not. No. That's your call. But I'm saying that's the kind of clarity I think the community would appreciate, and certainly would help us in terms of doing what we should do next.
It's 8 years from now. You said you started in 2017. So why 8 years? And then you're talking more years. It's 15,000 now, and in 4 years' time, it's going to be 25,000 each. And the interest, I just can't understand what the hell we're talking about. It's like, just get the job done. It's like, why didn't we? What in 2017 was there some problem? So it's 8 years till now that we're having this discussion, and we're going to have more discussions. Like, get the job done. So can someone tell me why it's taken so long?
I can give you some background on that. So and I'm sorry, I don't want to make this a long story. In 2017, the proposal was that we would connect to the Waitoa, to the dairy company's water supply. We would connect to it. We went and had a discussion with them and said, look, we'll be the provider. You give us the water, we'll replace the reticulation, and we'll be the provider. That's what we said. And that scheme was significantly cheaper than what's on the table now.
Yeah. Yes, years. How many years ago is that?
Yep, and the reason why is because they've got an outstanding treatment plant out there, and you wouldn't have to pipe the water anywhere. And the quantity that would come from their factory would be absolutely minuscule. The problem is the reticulation is bad, and the company understandably don't want the reputation risk associated with being a public water supplier. So we said that sounds great to us. What changed in between 2017 and 2020? Water regulator came in. Suddenly, Fonterra is forced to be a water supplier and to be accountable to the water regulator. Suddenly, they're in a position where they've always signalled their desire to get out of this because it's not their core business. And so suddenly the game changed for them, understandably. So, bit of a shame. Would have been nice to have nailed this in earlier than this. We are where we are.
Okay. Right.
Can I just ask, please?
Vinny.
Yeah, just on, so we're talking about the 15, but what's you mentioned we don't have anything budgeted at all, but what's the 85%? What's the plan to help get that handle that?
That would be the process of consultation with the wider community, and that would then we would tell the community what that impact would be on their targeted water rates. And so and this is the figure I've got in my head, by the way. I could be wrong, but my recollection is it would put about another $22 on the targeted water, roughly. Roughly.
Yeah. Per month.
No, I know, yeah. And that actually the options that were put to council were 100% by the Waitara Water Supply, 75%, 50%, 25%. And then in the discussion on the actual cost and impact, and remembering that today we already cross-subsidise water. So already the small settlements, and this is not a critic, this is the council policy for a long time, Te Poi, Tahuna, those water supplies, well, they are cross-subsidised by the bigger communities at the moment. So the council at the time said, given that context, we think we've got to make this an affordable proposition for the community. That's when they went to 15%. Now, a number of you were here at the time. Sorry, that's my quick summary of what happened.
Sorry, can I just mention, this is in effect a two-stage decision-making process. So you're going to make, if you support the council supply recommendation, that would be an interim decision in effect, because that would then trigger our need to go out to Waikato Waters Limited and to the wider community and to the other, or if we need to, and the other ratepayers to talk about what the options are and whether they are in general support of what we're planning to do. And then that information, like in consultation, would come back to you for council to make a final decision on.
Yeah. Do those recommendations reflect what you just said?
This stage here is really to get us through to the point where, so point 4 down there acknowledges that if the recommendations are accepted, that's when we would need to go out. If you were to say no at this point, then there is nothing to consult on.
So basically the purpose of this meeting here is we've heard from the community that and they're letting us know what they want, but it's now our time for our recommendation, which I'm getting a feeling around the room that we're in agreement of the recommendation from the panel, and then we can start the stages to proceed with this and get it happening. Okay. So with the amendments up here, have I got someone that would move the recommendation on here? Probably going through them. Confirms its agreement or disagreement.
Are you guys happy with this? Look, you want us to do? Just tell us. You want us to do this?
Yeah.
You happy? 100%. You guys in the back? Absolutely. Okay. Yep. I'm in. Yep. Sweet.
Yes.
We've got something.
Yeah. I'll second it.
Can I just clarify one point? I don't mean to be a stuck in the mud, but in terms of sub-recommendation to get the process moving, it would be to get all the legal things in place.
That's right.
It's not about design at that point. I just want to make that clear.
Not putting a spade in the ground.
Yeah.
Grace, I've got you moving it and Greg seconding it. So you've got agreement and obviously agreement in the number 3 as well. Take out the disagreement. Is that correct? Yep.
Let's read it.
So what have we got here? Resolution number 1, council receives the Waitoa Water Community Panel report. Item 2, we have council confirms its agreement on the recommendations, including overall recommendation and sub-recommendations contained within the Waitoa Water Community Panel report. Number 3, council provides an official response to the Waitoa Water Community Panel report confirming its agreement on the recommendations, including overall recommendations, recommendations. 1 to 4 reasons for any changes that are clear, outlining on the next steps and timelines for the wider consultation accepted. Wider consultation with the district and Waikato Waters Limited will occur in 2026. Council will then consider the feedback before making its final decision on the future water supply.
Can I just add something? I'm concerned. I'm not concerned, but could we not have council provides an official response right above? Council confirms its agreement in principle on the recommendation.
It needs to be in principle.
Just meaning we've kind of we agree with what they're doing, but there may be some things that still need to be ironed out. Am I right or wrong there? Yeah. Just a few bits and pieces that may not work in the end, but in principle we totally agree, sort of situation. Is that just get it clear that we haven't?
Is that the last bit though?
No, you still got to go and consult, don't you? So,
yeah.
Look, I wrote those sub-recommendations down so I could get them down. We still have to go out to the community about the 386,000.
Those sorts of things.
Right. Okay. So council. So on that one, council confirms its agreement on the recommendations, but it says includes the overall recommendation and subcommittee sub-recommendations 1 to 4. Now, that's the sticking point. The 386, I think, is the thing that's going to be a consultation issue. All right. If that there tells us that we're agreeing to their 386 sub-recommendation.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
I think we're splitting hairs on 386,000, Bruce, because we've just signed off a huge water thing for our whole district, millions, and these guys are part of our community, so it's irrelevant.
It's not relevant.
Well, someone has to, we have to convert 300,000 out of our books.
Personally, I would go with it. Yes. Right? I have no issue whatsoever, but that recommendation effectively says we're not going to consult them.
So this is
no. It effectively says that we've made the decision already. All right.
So what's number 4 mean? Clarify with the if these are accepted by the consultation with the district, or is that something else?
The 4 doesn't include a consultation in relation to the whole use of
it's the whole thing, and it is a small issue. For you and I, perhaps, right? But it may not be for the 79 people that are going to supposedly miss it. A lot of those will say, "Oh, good on you, go for it." All right.
Yeah, I think we can.
So how do we resolve this?
Yeah, I think we'll add another recommendation in there. If we can add a number 5, and just put a note in there regarding the use of the hall money, basically.
Further discussion and consultation.
Would be open for discussion and consultation with the wider.
And then number 2 says recommendations and sub recommendations 1 to
4 is okay.
No,
it's 5.
No, it's part of subsection 1. So we're agreeing to the 500,000 for Fonterra's money, we're putting the 386,000 call into number 5.
Well, I think, sorry, can I just, the question just raised about the 500,000. So what I think that Councillor Dewhurst, I interpret what you're saying is that if Fonterra give us 500,000, you're willing to contribute that to the 15%. Is that right?
That's
Which is the recommendation.
Yes.
So if they don't give us the money, you can't.
Yeah.
But if they do, you can. And that, I believe they will. They believe they will. Well, they were going to pay me on 30th of June. Never mind. I mean,
That's why I'm saying it's
a bit of toing and
there's a little bit of toing and froing.
Communication that we had from Fonterra, that, I mean, it had to be that we went council way. So, I mean, for them to get it over has to be, you know, after today's meeting when the concrete decisions and the community is going that way.
Yeah.
I think all I would say is I think what the community are looking for is that their request that the 500,000 comes off the 15% if it's available. That's what I think they're looking for.
Yeah, we're not.
So, and it sounds like the council is okay with that.
Well, I would think.
So that's.
But for the purpose of the resolution, does that need to be put in?
I think it's covered in numbers. I think it's covered in here. I think the only issue that's not covered, the only 2 issues, if I can be pedantic, that are not covered in here is that if you wish to go ahead and consult with the non-water supply residents of the Waitoa Hall area, if you want to do that, then that's resolution number 5.
That's right.
Which is the only thing I just want to reinforce. Get moving quickly for me is get moving on getting the processes done.
Yes.
Not necessarily design.
So if you want to change make that clear in that resolution, I'm happy for that to be.
What I want to avoid is in June next year, you say to me, well, how come you haven't got design finished? And I'm saying I'm finishing this and this and this and this, so that I can actually start investing money in the project.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
I think I just want to confirm to the people down the back, we're with you, but it's council speak of getting everything tidied up.
We've just got to get the resolution right. It's still good. Right.
Do you want to then simply, and because it does say here, the panel recommends that council move with speed to begin the design and tendering process, right?
Yes.
So I think if that said the panel recommends that the council will move with speed to ensure all processes are in place for design and tendering to, that's what I'll be focusing on.
That's number 6. Can you like to keep that in?
We're going to run it.
Say this again.
The council will move with speed to ensure all legal processes are in place to ensure that design and tendering processes can occur as soon as possible.
Yep.
Because I'm telling you now, it won't be before October next year. I'm pretty confident of that. But it's not that I don't want it to be. No, I just think of the ducks in a row.
We know that that's the situation.
Okay. Right, thank you. So we've also added in the council will move with speed to ensure all legal processes are in place to ensure design and legal process can occur as soon as possible. Grace, we've got you moving. Are you happy with the recommendation? Okay. And Greg, yes. Are you second? You're happy with that? All in favour, please say aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And I'd just like to say, look, before the panel go, really appreciate the panel, the effort that you've put in over months and months in the hot all out there in the Saturdays. You've spent a lot of time on this, and staff as well. I'd like to acknowledge staff that have been helped you through that process, and we really appreciate that as a community for your diligence and hard work. And watch this space. At least we can say this happening in the right direction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sort of feel like we're whānau now. It's been that long. Definitely. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay.
Sorry, can I just make a point? Sorry, the committee, mate, I'm sorry, the committee at the end of the meeting that you and I attended, where the recommendation presented to, they extended their thanks to the council team, in particular Andrea.
Yeah.
And particularly Andrea, I just have to say she has led this for us as an organisation, and you could only have to be in the room to see the connection that she had, and Bridget and others who supported her. It was quite unique. It felt like being on a marae at that point. So I just want to thank Andrea and her team for all the work they've done on this, and everybody supported her.
Throughout all this, which is amazing. So thank you guys.
Have a great Christmas, guys.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, and on that, we're going to have a break for morning tea.
That makes the job worth
Okay, so we're on to item 7.7. So Manawatu Forum Chairs remuneration.
Thank you, Mayor Ash. So following our recent council elections, council re-established our Te Mana Forum with the purpose of considering any matter to promote the social, economic, environmental and cultural wellbeing of our Māori communities. The forum was very first established back in 2004, which is when the meeting fee for all members, including the chair, was set at $250 per meeting. This report is asking council to consider the chairperson remuneration moving forward. The forum generally meets 6 times per year with a combination of formal meetings and formal workshops. What we've got in your report is we've outlined 2 options. There are also other options that council are welcome to consider. Option 1 proposes the remuneration be set at $3,500 per year. This would include chairing all official meetings and workshops and also include reporting back to council where required. So note this would be covered by our existing Te Mana Whenua Forum budget, and option 2 proposes the status quo of $250 per meeting. I'm at this point happy to open up for any comments or questions.
Okay, any comments on that? One of our members mentioned that before. Was that you, Ian?
Yeah, that's me, Your Honour. Yeah, I looked at that and I thought, yeah, it hasn't been increased since 2004. I think it's probably a timely time that it was, and it's coming out of the existing budget, and probably reflects also the increasing responsibilities on the chair as well. So I'm in favour of option 1.
Yeah, happy to move that, Andrew.
If there's no other questions, yeah, I'm happy to move that.
Can I just ask what else is that budget allocated to Te Mana Whenua Forum?
I can answer that if you like. So Te Mana Whenua Forum budget covers the administration of the forum. So it covers their meeting fees, their mileage claims, catering, those kinds of things.
Sandra, have you had to up that budget much to take this into consideration?
So this is based on the current budget that was approved as part of the long-term plan. So obviously not all members attend. So we budget for every member attending every meeting in terms of both meeting fees and mileage claims and catering, but not all members attend. So we can cater for it within the budget.
So we're not going over budget.
We have put up the budget for next year, and part of that is also because we've had increased membership, which has been really good. Because previously we didn't have as many members turning up, so we have actually put an increase up for the next year.
Do the online people get paid a meeting fee?
They get paid a meeting fee, but no mileage.
Yeah.
Was it $250 each meeting? Even at the sitting in the lounge?
Yes. So it recently changed that you can attend a meeting via video link if need be. It's the same rules that apply to your council meetings, though. It's generally for an emergency or sickness or those kind of things, and it's up to the discretion of the chair.
Okay. Any further questions? If not, Andrew has moved that.
So just confirming we're moving 1 and 2. Yeah. So just making that effective from when the forum was re-established on the 5th of November.
Oh, yeah. So yes, yeah. I'm sorry, I was looking at options, but yeah, I'm happy to move 1 and 2.
Yeah. I'm happy to move. Sorry, second. All in favour, please say aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Item 7.8, delegation to the management. And Jenny, this is regards to the discussion we had in the workshop last week.
It is, yes. So the at the moment, council has supported the forum previously to deliver events for Waitangi Day, and then post-COVID that situation evolved. We had a number of cancellations related to COVID and severe weather events around Waitangi Day. And in more recent years, we have established a grant process that has allowed iwi, or actually any community group, to deliver events, access funds to support iwi-led, community-led events for Matariki or Waitangi Day. Operationally, we have found that administratively heavy. It's been quite reactive, and so we have gone back to the forum and back to the council on a sort of event by event basis. And for the funding that is actually allocated to this, it doesn't feel like the best use of time and resources to continually come back to the forum and council. So following discussions with the forum, staff and the forum make the recommendation that council give the Te Mana Whenua Forum the financial delegation of $5,000, which is already within your current budgets, annual budgets, to make that determination themselves annually on how to proceed in supporting those events to occur in the community.
I'm in total agreement with that change of letting them do it, because I do recall it was staff heavy and all sorts of things. So I think this is a great way forward. Here's some funds to go do something. Do they have to report to us as to what they do? Yes. Yep. Cool.
Yeah, so that's, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's still a process that they have to.
Yep.
One of the things is it has to be open to all members of the community as well, whether they put on an event or however they allocate it. And also there's a report back afterwards as well, just like the summary. We don't want to make it too hard or constrictive or anything like that, but there's obviously it's still ratepayers' money. We have to be accountable for it.
If there's no questions, I'll move that.
Andrew.
Yeah, I suppose I'm just going back to my earlier question when I jumped again. Sorry, Jenny, but and Sue actually asked it already around the review process. But I'm also questioning: is this a council core competency that we should be getting involved in? There's plenty of other organisations out there, like the Millennium Foundation, this trust, Gallagher's who provide grants for things like this. And even if we pushed it back to central government, they're devolving a lot of stuff down to us, like civil defence with no extra funding, and we're on a 4% cap. So I'm just sort of thinking everything, and don't just mean this fund, but the whole community funding thing is maybe under the microscope a little bit more. And I'm just also wondering, if when we're reviewing it, are they able to provide the benefits they've achieved economically and socially around the community as well. So it's a little bit long-winded, but that's just I'm just sort of saying it's all these things should be under the microscope a bit more maybe.
So we do have, as part of your workshop this afternoon, looking at the annual plan, our provision of grants will come back for you as part of the discussion. So you do have the opportunity to review those grants and how much funding would be allocated to grants annually through your annual plan budget setting process. Equally, you have that as part of your long-term plan if you were wanting to zoom sort of further out and take a wider look at that before that rates capping proposal does affect the way you set your budget. This funding is, at the moment, the proposal would stand, it would be a delegation of $5,000 of operating budget, and it is not necessarily a grant in itself. So it is, as per any line of your operating budget, it's something you can review through that annual plan process. But this recommendation would give the forum the ability to put a grant policy in place and determine how that be spent, or equally they may choose to deliver an event or deliver an education piece of work using that funding. So yes to both in a way. Yes, you absolutely have the ability to review your grants, and we'll have further discussion on that this afternoon. And yes, you have the ability to review that line of funding as well. if council is not certain that you wish to include this funding, that $5,000 in your operational funding in the next year, you could make an interim resolution that gives the forum the delegation within the current financial year and note an intention to review this as part of your wider annual plan setting process.
I just want to add that probably 5,000 is cheaper than what we've ever been able to pull off ourselves.
Yep. James Norris. Thanks, Mary. Yeah, look, yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with what we're trying to look at and do. I would also add to that recommendation that it's reviewed, you know, annually. Because we'd like to have the feedback. What to have is, Mary put it out, there'd have to be a report based on what the funds were used for. But we also have, remind me, because I've been on to Matamata-Piako forum in the past, we have had government grants for the likes of Waitangi Day. I'm not sure about Matariki, but we've had central government grants that we've effectively just allocated to these projects, correct?
Yes. So the Ministry of Culture and Heritage do have a commemorating Waitangi Day fund that we have been successful in applying for in the past, and that has been used, like Sue commented, to support the delivery of an event, because $5,000 is quite a small amount to deliver a event of scale for the community.
Yeah, because there just has to be somebody leading it, doesn't there? And I know Waitangi Day is always a bit tricky because it's after the holiday period, and often there's not a lot of lead-in time if you're involving schools and what have you. And I was also aware that Te Matamata led a lot of those initial Waitangi Day celebrations as well. And I think might be unfair, but I don't think anybody's stepped up to pick up that mantle of organising as well. So I don't, in principle, I'm okay with it. I hear what you're saying, Andrew, in terms of money and grants and stuff. But you know, if we can investigate external funding, i.e., government funding and stuff, and have some sort of a review process, then I'm comfortable with what's recommendations, unless we add annual review or something in the recommendation.
I would suggest that we would get the forum to, or ask the forum to include this as an item on their annual work program to identify what they planned to do with that funding for the year ahead. And then that would enable reporting back to council as they report to you and share back on the work program.
Because would this be, sorry, Jenny, would this be from 1st of July, or is this coming in for this? Because was it, well, it can't have been passed in Te Matamata because it's got to go via us, but so if we said particularly very great, does that allow them to, this Waitangi Day, it allows those funds to be freed up for that?
Yeah, the preference, and that was why we got it on today's agenda, was to try and get that delegation in place and allow it to be available for the coming Waitangi Day.
So in terms of that meeting last week, because I don't have it's on there or anything like that, was that, you know, again, chicken need, but if this was granted today, have they got some ideas regarding what's going on?
The current thinking is that we would develop a grant policy. So we workshopped at the end of the meeting some feedback from forum members on what a grant policy and criteria might look like for Waitangi Day and Matariki events, and that we, pending council endorsement of this recommendation, that we would come back to them to develop that policy further in early next year, and that in the interim we would use the previous application form that had been put together for Matariki to open funding immediately for any Waitangi events.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, provided there's an adequate review provision attached to it. I'm happy to second Sue's motion, but and maybe we also add to the motion that we and the Te Manawa Forum also further explore external funding sources for grants as well. Is a possibility. I mean, I'll just put it out on camera there. I still think we should get our local MP to come in here and tell us why he thinks the 4% caps is a great thing. So, so I'll just leave it there.
I'm sure he's watching.
Are you happy for the second?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, hey, I think that is quite normal for all of our grants. This is no different from the rest of our grants. You get money, you have to put out some paperwork as to how it works.
Andrew, would you like to just, I'll come to Benny, but I'll just, if you can just,
well, it's probably not just Te Manawa Forum, but that they explore additional external funding sources.
That would be council as well.
Yeah, it would be council too, I suppose.
Could you do like a fireworks event in conjunction with Matariki instead of
doesn't work time-wise.
Guy Fawkes, but it would be better than Guy Fawkes, wouldn't it?
Different.
For the purpose of this item, though, just a small delegations. Do we need to put that in the?
No, we don't.
So happy just leave the.
I'm just as long as it's got an adequate review process, I'm happy to leave it.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Benny.
So it's just the overall context of this, because we are talking, we've started discussions about the budgets for next year. We're talking about increases, and there's a lot of discussions that need to be had, challenging spend across the board, and I just question whether it's council's role to be funding public holidays, especially with all the pressure that we have upon ratepayers. Did you say that there's budget there's funding within the budget in this financial year, Jenny?
Yeah. So this would be giving the forum the delegation to direct and authorize spending on existing budget with funding.
I can support it if it's within existing budget this year, but I just think that we need to be challenging all sorts of things. As Andrew said before, grants on the table as well. When we're looking at next year, I can support it if it's within the budget this year.
Yeah, just to clarify, this is not a new funding that we're talking about. It's an existing one, but instead of staff delegating, we're handing that responsibility over to the board.
Really wise.
Yeah. Okay. Any further questions? Otherwise, we put a recommendation moved by Sue.
Just double checking. Is there an appetite in the room to add for the current financial year or go with it? I just wanted to verify.
Yep. Moved by Sue, seconded by Andrew.
Sorry, Mary. Sorry. Were we going to also put that it was going to be reviewed?
Well, this is
that. What? No.
That would be normal.
No. Sorry. I think Sandra just mentioned. Is it for this financial year, right? Because that's what you're wanting.
But we'd like council's direction. Is it this year or is it delegation?
Well, it's delegate. There's two things: whether there's funding and whether it's delegated. I have no problem with that there. All right, but I agree with Vinny on the issue of whether we look at it for the totally as a funding issue for grants in general.
Yes. So if we put for this financial year, then that's
well,
that, isn't it?
I just wonder, because that's a good point that Jenny mentioned, that grants are one of your discretionary items that you have.
Yes.
And it's fine for us to put that on the whole list for this annual plan. It will certainly come up to the LTP. You have certain, from memory, certain agreements in place around grants, but I think it would be interesting to put all of the grants in. This is what we currently, which
it's quite
significant, and it is absolutely fair and reasonable to say is this a role that we want to take forward? The thing that we've got to be a bit careful about is an annual plan's on an LTP. So when you make decisions around these grants and you've made commitments to groups, you just got to be conscious of what you might trigger, but it's absolutely fair and reasonable that you look at that whole picture.
So this is no different.
So in practice, it's council giving to Mana Firma the financial delegation, all right, boom, 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 boom,
With this,
bearing in mind that future funding has yet to be determined. That's really what.
So basically, this is the 2025/2026 year, the current year, basically.
That's right.
Yeah.
so we just need
But you
to,
just finish that off with just while funding is available. If and when funding is available, just finish that off at the end of that, and then that future-proofs us.
Yep, it does.
happy with that, Steve?
Yes.
Happy with that, Andrew?
That's a very good wording.
Well, funding is all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, draft. Draft land transport bylaw adoption for public consultation. Morning.
Good morning, Mayor Ash, good morning, councillors. So this report seeks council approval to adopt the draft land transport bylaw 2026 and the associated statement of proposal for public consultation. So just as a brief reminder, under the Local Government Act, we're required to review bylaws no later than 5 years after they were first made, and then every 10 years. So this bylaw was last reviewed in 2017. It's been amended over time, but sort of lacks a clear overall direction, and it's quite outdated and difficult to enforce. So we have brought the review forward slightly, just to allow further resources to be freed for the long-term plan. So the key drivers for this review are to improve the clarity and enforceability, as I mentioned, and address operational issues and some of the CRMs that we've seen coming through. And so the draft today, quick, in the slideshow. So just as a recap of the process to date, the draft today reflects the direction provided by elected members through 2 workshops, one with the previous council and another with the current council, to review the key issues. We also engaged with council committees, including Te Mana Whenua Forum, and also feedback from operational staff and, as I mentioned, CRMs. They've also informed the draft. And a summary of this input is included in the report. So changes to the draft bylaw have been made in response to this feedback, aiming to improve overall clarity and assist in enforceability for staff. And we did workshop this on the 27th of November, and we have since that we have made some further, we're suggesting some further amendments, and they have been highlighted in red in your report as a tracked version. There's also the clean version there, which we will use for the purposes of consultation. So looking at some of the proposed changes here, as I said, overall the bylaw has been streamlined. We've added some explanatory notes. Hopefully that assists in understanding for the community. And we've refined the purpose of the bylaw, that is to manage and protect our roading assets, supporting safety, accessibility and amenity. And you'll see that come through in some of the changes to the clauses there. The draft introduces clear rules about for footpaths and roads, including replacement of hazards, spills, objects on roads, things like that. Vehicles must be moved when directed. We've added a clear clause there around vegetation encroachments to prevent hazards from existing in the first place. We've also enabled cost recovery for any damage caused. Council can recover costs regards to any damage to road. So in relation to traffic and parking, we have so the existing restrictions remain unchanged. So the bylaw confirms that you're not able to park on footpaths, berms, medians, landscaped areas, unless specifically approved, authorised by council. And vehicles can't stop, stand or park in an area that is indicated by signs or road markings. And at this stage, as we did discuss at the workshop, there's no schedule for timed or metered parking included in the draft. This can be considered at a later date. The team are happy to report back on the updated parking data and analysis. And the draft bylaw does include some simplified rules around heavy vehicle parking. You see there, parking is not allowed for more than 1 hour in a 50k, 70k zone. This is a existing rule, but there's been some simplification around the rules around accommodation and things like that. Parking must not affect safety, visibility, that sort of thing. And there's also been some rules introduced for boat launching ramps, restricting use to launching or retrieving boats and preventing vehicles from lingering or blocking access. And we've listed the locations in the schedule there. And also we've simplified the stop movement aspect. So remove some of those more very detailed permit conditions, which are more appropriate and more of an operational document. And finally, we have included a schedule of shared pathways. The rules around them are in the current bylaw, prioritising safe use, restricting motor vehicles except for maintenance or authorised access. What else here? So we've also strengthened our enforcement provisions. There's clear offensive powers to request cars to move or vehicles to move, seize and impound property and cost recovery mechanisms, as I mentioned previously. And we've done a really good review of our schedules, making sure all those facts and figures are correct, and the removal of some outdated references, things like that. So giving that a good refresh. And that was the end of my presentation, but just to explain the next steps. So this is a draft for council consideration to adopt for consultation, and we will undertake consultation from late February through March, and with hearings or drop-in sessions around March, April. And we'll make sure to undertake targeted engagement with key stakeholders, so trucking companies, freight. We're going to make sure we provide opportunities for feedback to be provided in person as well. So we'll get around to markets, provide the opportunity for people to be able to have their say. There's also a statement of proposal there. This is something some newer members might not be aware of. This is a requirement of the Local Government Act, and it just explains the proposal that people can provide feedback on, and also explains the options that council have considered. Also, before we go to the recommendations, I'd just like to briefly talk about the section 155 determinations. So this is also a provision in the Local Government Act when council is making a bylaw. And so it basically means that council need to confirm 3 things, so that the bylaw is the best way of dealing with the issues, and we've set out the issues in your report there. That the bylaw is in the most appropriate form, and that the bylaw is not in conflict with the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act. And so you'll see in the report there is a summary of those issues. We've checked these points. In terms of the Bill of Rights Act, the bylaw does place some limits on activities, so you can't park in certain places. There are some restrictions, but these are considered necessary and reasonable to support safety. So our analysis of this is that it is consistent with the Bill of Rights Act. And One last thing is that council will need to confirm these points again. So following consultation, people have the opportunity to have their say, and then there may be changes to the draft, and then those points will need to be reconsidered again. So I'm happy to take any questions.
To Sue.
Just a clarification, Laura. It has come up in our town about the parking on the Broadway plots. And I just came through town the other night and I see more and more of it going on just outside. Read out, yes. Bungees, number plate, parked on the plots. And that's one I know, but they are just sort of driving up and parking, and it is a bit dangerous, you know, from coming back down on it with those cars and so on. Is that in there, Ryan? Is that covered? Does it give you?
Yeah.
Does this give you some opportunity? Yeah. Yeah, because it's happening at the primary school and it's happening right in town. So I'll leave it with you guys.
Bruce.
You'd be aware that Western Bay of Plenty have recently started enforcing parking. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this consultation as to whether the locals in Morrinsville and Matamata and Tara are interested in it.
Yeah, I've just got a couple of little concerns. Reading that, and it just need a little bit of clarity. But like when it says about, you know, prohibiting placement of objects or hazards on the roads. Now, you know, we have, like, say, real estate agents, and they're doing an open home, and they have, you know, they'll be outside property, and they'll have a little flag under the wheel and this and that and the other thing, or they might have a little sign out, or even a little, you know, sandwich board. Same thing with shops, and even talking about like tables, you know, sometimes the shops will put a seat out in front of the shop, something like that. Yeah. Which is not really a big deal in our communities. What I'm worried about is sometimes when we put into bylaws, the next thing we start getting inundated with calls that, you know, someone's gone around and said, no, it's not prohibited. And if you keep putting it out there, you're going to get prosecuted. I mean, sometimes these activities actually make our places vibrant and, you know, progressive, if you like. And a lot of businesses are trying everything they can to entice more. I'm just wary that we don't want to put anything in there that starts turning into a flood of calls coming through with, you know, our retailers getting into arguments with potentially with staff, enforcing a bylaw that we've sat around the table and we've implement with unintentionally the results, and I can just see some of these need to be tweaked a little bit, because I'd hate to, you know, it comes back to, do we have a problem? If we have a problem, then that specific thing possibly needs to be addressed, potentially like driving up.
It's a tool though, isn't it?
Yes, it's a tool, but I just sometimes in you know, regional, I should get stopped. They've got tools as well, and they use them to a need of effect. That's
just need a tool.
So I think can I just comment? I think it was last year, Brian presented to council a kind of a hierarchy of enforcement, which meant that to deal with exactly the issue you're talking about, I don't want to, Brian, you might want to mention, but I thought what it reassured council is we focus on enforcement where we have real issues. If you like, that's the stuff. Like, in other words, you know, because we can get vexatious objection, but there's no problem. So I think safety, for example, is a high issue in terms of enforcement. Brian, did you want to comment? I've just thought the way that you manage the bylaw and enforce it is an important part of this.
Yeah, well, I mean, education is the first step. So if they're breaching something and there's a complaint, it'll be a discussion first off. And then I guess it depends on what it is what will then happen. But specifically, is there something about footpaths that's not already a thing?
It's just for me, you know, when it's interpretation, you know, like, so when I see, you know, objects being placed in a road, I really started thinking about, you know, real estate agents, you know, just one example, I guess, or say you might have someone selling flowers or something, so like, and they've got a little sign alluding to that. Is that a problem? I don't see it as necessarily a problem, and I'm just worried that if we bring in some bylaws that could potentially
the signs are governed by some legislation anyway. That they're not really, it's a little bit out of our hands. I mean, there's probably some discretion, but that's why complaint based is so good, because someone actually has an issue and then it's out trying to solve it without using a stick of any kind. Really, it's the first step.
I think part of it, if I can recall, Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, we've actually said in our hierarchy, there are some issues we just don't have the resource to actually enforce. So there has to be a hierarchy of decision making, of which, if there's a health and safety issue, for example, that's higher. Because look, this team know more than me, but I've had enough experience too. You can get people peeved off with other people, and you end up getting complaints. So you've got to have a triaging process, and I think the team have got a really good framework in which they make the decision. So we're not just out there firing, we're just not enforcing for enforcement's sake by any means. We don't have the resources to do that. I do it in a focus on it. Their approach, as Ryan said, is, even if there's a real complaint, can we solve this without enforcement but by education? So I think the way the team, and this goes across all our bylaws, not just this one, this is a common issue. So your concern, all I'm saying to you is, to the concern that we could end up doing things that we don't intend to, I think the framework the team have to actually work through any enforcement issue is reassures me that we're dealing with real issues and not imagined issues.
Yeah, and I'd be comfortable with that. I just don't want it turning into, more than what we interpreted there. Okay.
Can I ask a question? About the pulling off the Sue's point. Does this bylaw actually ban people parking in the middle of the Broadway?
In the berms, yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, personally, I don't support that. Differ with Sue on this. I think it's quite a cool thing about the culture in Matamata, that people, you see these big events and there's nowhere to park, and then people find a park and they go to the event and they don't have to walk K's and K's, So personally, I don't support that actually. I'd be interested to know how many people have complained about safety issue. You guys have that sort of data?
Yeah.
It'd be good to know.
It has one has been complaints. Yeah, it is one of the highest complaints in regard to this bylaw review that we've seen coming through. That's sort of, and that's an existing rule that is in the current bylaw as well. So we're not proposing to change it. And I guess that's kind of an enforcement issue as well, like how that kind of situation would be.
So the infringement is a national, is a nationwide infringement of parking on the grass. It's not necessarily just the bylaw thing.
Okay, great.
Sorry, really quickly, just for the clarification, in Morrinsville we have like a medium strip outside. Does that include? I know that's not a berm, but
no, I think that's a national. It's in the legislation as well, I believe.
Talking about the loading zone.
The loading zone. The medium strip. Outside the mall.
And they're not.
That's in the land.
A lot of it is covered in the Land Transport Act and other acts. So it's almost just supporting that. But there's bigger legislation that actually covers it.
So I've just come back from the Gold Coast last week, and man, they got a can of worms over there. I don't know whether it's police or there would have been 1,000 kids, 5-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds on these new electric bikes, black with and they're still on footpaths, no helmets, and they are just booning, man. And on the side of the motorways, that's going to come here because they've got them here now. I think about $6,000-8,000, but these kids it's just unbelievable, mate. You got no idea. Didn't see a lot of mobility scooters on the footpaths, but I didn't see hardly any pedestrians either. So all these kids and adults are too up. So I don't know what bylaw that's going to come out. It's going to hit us in the head at some stage because our footpaths are so narrow. And the pensioners here saying, oh, they're having trouble getting over there and over that gutter. And so we're heading into new territory. Are you making plans for that going forward? Because we're going to have electric bikes, and I don't know when the police are going to see them start saying they're like motorbikes. These things have got tyres like this. They're like motorbikes, but they're just, and then so those come in, you got the more and more mobility scooters, and you got pedestrians in our little district. So what, I suppose that's all part of your job to, because it's going to come a time when the police are going to start saying, well, hang on, these things are motorbikes. Mate, they're doing, you stand there, what was that? Someone just ripped past us, right? They hit someone. It's only a matter of time before the Australian government do something.
Like the lime scooters and the orange scooters and purple scooters.
These things are faster than them. These are like motorbikes. But I'm just saying that, is it all in this? We don't have to keep going over this.
Take your walking stick and just put them out on the side.
Because it's going to come.
Yeah, that was, I actually seen, they're coming out for this Christmas because I know people have brought them, not myself. But they got the real ones. But the electric, like Greg said, the electric motorbikes, plastic, but they're electric, and they go like a rate day. Honestly, they're pretty quick. Yeah.
That issue's actually covered
Say
in
that.
the
bylaw.
It's in the community safety bylaw, which we have just reviewed, and there is there's a skating prohibited area in the CBDs, apart from mobility devices, the recreational wheeled vehicles such as a scooter. So there is that provision in there. So that's not covered in this bylaw.
I understand we've got to flex and give and take and just sort of tend to look the other way at times, but yeah, it's going to come eventually. Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. If there's no further questions, have I got someone that will move the recommendation?
Yeah, I'll move it.
Andrew? Got someone that will second?
Possibly.
I will.
Yeah. All in favour, please say aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Point 10. The draft local Easter Sunday shop trading policy adoption consultation.
Thank you, there, Ash. So this one is obviously to adopt the draft local Easter Sunday shop trading policy and the statement of proposal. This again will be consulted on at the same time, and we're required to do this review under the Shop Trading Hours Act. And we are using the special consultative procedure under the Local Government Act. This means that we must allow people to share their views in person, and also we have to have at least 1 month available for submissions. So that's what the special consultative procedure is. And so like the previous review, we've brought this one forward slightly. It has to be reviewed every 5 years. There's a little bit of background to this policy. So Easter Sunday for a restricted trading days in New Zealand, meaning most shops must close unless they're exempt. That's the default situation under the legislation. There are some exemptions, so dairies and service stations, for example. And the reason why we have this policy is that in 2016, the law changed to allow councils to have a policy to permit trading on Easter Sunday. So if we didn't have a policy, then it would default, the situation would default to the legislation. So we first adopted a policy the year after that law change, after consultation, and that was reviewed in 2022, and we continued with that same policy position. Now, council have previously provided direction to continue with the current policy position. That's what the draft
their proposals. And we've attached that for your consideration. We are keen to hear, obviously, from the community in the consultation period, but this option maintains the flexibility for businesses and respects the existing employee rights in the legislation. We do also have some data from the previous consultation about people's views. So if council approves the draft policy today, then that consultation will run alongside all the other topics. And there's the provision there to consider people's feedback so that it's a well-informed decision, and then the policy can be finalised or also revoked, in which case the legislation would apply. So yeah, happy to take any questions on this one.
There is no change, Laura. Then I would move it because
it's just minor wording amendments.
Minor wording amendments, but as long as there is no change, that we are happy for people to open on a Sunday if they choose to.
Yep.
Very good.
Have we got something to second that, Dale? No further discussion. Please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Excellent. Stephen 11. Issued over the Christmas holiday period, and we have Sandra.
Thank you, Mayor Ash. So because this is your last official council meeting of the year, we're not expecting to resume our official meetings until February. If there are any urgent decisions needing to be made during that period, the process we would usually go through is we would email out all councillors regarding the issue, and then on consensus from the majority of councillors, we give delegation to the Mayor and the Chief Executive to handle any of those urgent items. So I guess it's more just an administrative piece of information for you that we're seeking that delegation in case something happens that needs to be acted on.
Oh my.
I'll second.
Yeah, Andrew.
Yep.
Moved by Sue. Seconded by Andrew. All in favour, please say aye. Opposed? Carried. And council committee meetings calendar for 2026 and Sandra.
So all of our other committees have already confirmed their dates in the previous weeks because their final meetings happened before council's final meetings. So this report is seeking the approval of the council meeting calendars, but we have attached the entire calendar for your consideration. Noting that this has been established based on your current structures, your estimated workload, and dates may need to shift or be added during the year depending on work requirements, but I guess it gives us a good foundation for those basic dates moving forward.
Can I move for that? Dan. Second of Grace. Grace, all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
It's a generational thing.
It is.
Have you got a hard copy?
Oh, I suppose we could find out. The only thing with that is it might change.
I know, Sandra, but I can't read that.
Would you like papyrus or stone?
You got once. 7:13.
Take it. I'll take anybody else.
That's what I say. Will. Oh. Yeah. Thanks, Sandra.
Yes, please.
Susan.
Good morning, Mayor and councillors. We circulated the report yesterday with some more, Monday, with some more information around the RSA wall. We will table at the meeting today. So the report outlines the current status and history of the Morrinsville RSA retaining wall at 2729 Studholme Street in Morrinsville, which has been identified as a dangerous structure, and the engineering advice has deemed that the wall to be at the end of its life.
due to its age and structural integrity. I think the wall was constructed around 1968. And multiple remediation options have been considered. Potentially the most cost-effective option would be to remove the wall and kind of better that slope. However, full replacement of the wall is the preferred option, as this would address safety concerns, meet compliance, and incorporate the RSA feedback to maintain the car parking on their site. The RSA has expressed concerns about car parking loss and cost sharing, and there is ongoing discussions about the responsibility and funding. Preliminary cost estimates for the project range from $500,000 to $850,000, but just noting that this is very preliminary, and obviously the job and further refinement will be done as we move through the final design and getting competitive tenders for the work. Cost sharing is proposed based on property boundaries and location of the wall, also taking into account the engineering impacts from the sewer leak that impacted the wall. And the report had outlined some of that in more detail. There was a leak and failure in 2011 and again in 2022. The pipe has now been relocated and away from the wall. That work was probably completed a couple of months ago. Assessment of structural impact on the wall from the two incidents could range from 4 to 30%. That's based on information from the engineering report and also from staff assessments at the time. This is based on the 30%, 4 to 30%. That's really just on the RSA wall. That's in the RSA property. Overall, looking at the metre squared of the wall, there's 40% of the wall that is on council land, which is the car park on your right-hand side. 60% of the wall is in the RSA property, so that's adjoining Studholme Street. So taking a staff assessment, looking at those failures and the potential impact, you could look at a range of cost sharing for the RSA from 43 to 58%, and council between 42 and 57, but that's just the staff assessment. It was obviously council's decision about how we move forward and what the cost share we'd like to pursue with. Yeah. The RSA has expressed concerns with council feedback on the wall structural assessment and also the proposal to look at shared funding. The RSA have advised that the expectation is that council should fund the full cost of the replacement, and they deem that the wall failure was more major and that it is a council issue. The report put in front of you, and had looked at 3 options. So there could be a number of different options, but the key ones we put forward is option 1 is do nothing. When it says do nothing, I think the minimum to meet that structural compliance is to do some more work around traffic management. I think one of the issues still is, even what's out there at the moment, is that the detour for pedestrians to go up through the RSA, that's not happening if people are walking the shortest route. Option 2 is a full wall replacement, and then option 3 was partial repairs. Options 1 and 2 are not supported based on the engineering advice that we have, and I suppose it does leave council with major risks around the compliance part and also just looking at the longer term and the whole of life cost of the impacts. So yeah. Council is asked to confirm its preferred approach, balancing regulatory obligations, financial prudence, and community interests. I think the key thing to take is that we do need to make some timely decisions around this so that we can move forward to ensure we can meet the compliance deadlines and also public safety. And we do recommend continued engagement with the RSA to work through this project delivery. I'm happy to answer any questions on this.
Yep, just before we take some questions, so just some of the councillors that weren't here last week when we had this discussion up at the meeting. So I was called to a meeting with the RSA over this issue because the conversations are sort of at a breakdown point over the wall. The RSA presented me with a lot of paperwork. They've got a huge amount of paperwork from this, and it goes back to, like I say, 2011, when the pipe, where the centre of where you can see the centre of the damage, which is the front wall. Okay, that's where a council pipe was. It apparently broke in 2011. And there was an issue there that was back in, from the RSA's point of view, it's repaired and then pulled with concrete block. Now, with the vibration and all that, that's there. That concrete block or concrete that was poured in there has worked its way out now to the front of the wall, and that's got the wall out. They provided me with photographs on their phone. That concrete block has now been removed. They've got photographs on the phone without the steel plate on there, and she clearly shows the council pipe that is exactly the vicinity of where the blowout is, if you like. Okay. Now, there's a couple of things here. The wall, the 3 metre wall that goes up to the front walls of the RSA is council's. That's ours. In the report, if you have a look in the reports that are attached here, the old wall, which is the front end side, has been deemed dangerous, and council has slapped them on a dangerous building and noticed the fix pretty much. The thing is, for me, it's disappointing that this has gone on for a couple of years. Okay? And we can't do anything about it because we can't get the clock back. Okay, so we seem to be spending a lot of time having an knowing about who's got to do this, who's got to do that. In my mind, now that we've got an engineer's report saying that wall is dangerous and we've cordoned it off so that they can't use that for car parking, we need to fix it. If you have a look at Brookfield's report on it, which is our lawyers, we got them to do a thing, and they're saying, oh, well, might not all entirely be because council didn't build the wall. I think that's a bizarre statement. And so limited liability, I actually start to believe that would be the case if we went to court if someone got injured because it's on our land. Now, if you have a look at in the executive summary and item 7 in the Brookfields, MPDC is the owner of the land on which the wall on the northwestern side is located. Having been made aware of the risk of failure now, so i.e. the engineer's report has said it's dangerous, it's buggered, and having been made aware of the risk of failure of the wall on the northeastern side, it would be reasonable for MPDC to seek engineering advice on the structural integrity of the northwestern side, which has happened. The council has received advice that the northeastern wall is unsafe. It is highly likely that a duty to respond reasonably arises. MPDC could be liable if it can be shown that it was aware of the risk of collapse and did not take any action in response to it. Now, the RSA are also telling me that part of the front wall is also on council land because they stand at the boundary is in line with the entranceway, if you like, whether it's a carport or whatever you call it, the posts on that, and then it runs out to the road. So they're saying that that's a part of this. The way I see it, and subsequently, council now have moved the pipe as of only like 2-3 weeks ago. Now the pipe runs down the driveway and out to the road. Basically, I think council, we just got to fix it. We just got to get it done. Now the conversation is around if we can get something from the RSA, and potentially there was an opportunity where maybe they can put a contribution on the title of the RSA then, so that if it ever stops being an RSA, then council can get that contribution back on the sale of the RSA. It's embarrassing and it needs to be fixed. And I'd like us to see if we can go to these local contractors that are making comments around, basically doing a deal, but not building the whole thing. We've the contractors that were there replacing the pipe that see it as a job that they could do, and that it wouldn't even be that hard a job. So, look, I think once again we just need to move on this because the RSA, like any club, so they point it out, really what they're wrong, but I think this could potentially. Well, I just think we need to get something happening and then work out how we're going to get a contribution. And I don't know if we can sit here and come up with a fact that on a percentage they should pay or they, because there's also arguments that if the pipe hadn't blown out, we would not be having. Well, it is for sure. If the pipe hadn't blown out in the first place, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. I do not believe. And it wouldn't be cordoned off either. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it, guys. I just thought I'd give you that because they got me to go over there. But my thoughts on it is we just got to get one bullet and just fix it. Because if someone gets hurt, and the likelihood is going to be from the section that we actually own, because that's the one that they're saying, that's where the cars park, basically. And if someone gets hurt there, bear in mind that now we know that it's unsafe, or council own that. Grace.
I do agree with you, but I just have a couple of questions. I feel like there's a whole lot of information that's missing. Like there's no, like the pipe burst, and like we found that the pipe burst back in 2011, am I right? Would we be liable for the whole cost anyway? That's one of the things. I feel like back then in 2011, would the wall be at its full use by date essentially? Like I just feel like there's a whole lot missing. And like, yeah, one of my things is speaking at the staff thing. I feel like we just need to be upfront and honest. Like I feel like I don't have all the information to do that. So if there's other things that we don't know about or that could be clearer, I feel like that would be awesome. The other thing was when we spoke in the election period at the RSA, that was the only thing people talked about, and there were a lot of, I guess, people that knew people or had the whatever, the right contractors and stuff to help out with that kind of thing. But also, I don't know if I would just call it just a club, with one of the things of like the disadvantages if we went with a particular decision. Like seeing the photos there of the Christmas Day dinner or lunch or whatever it was the community, it was young people, it was the elderly, it wasn't just the club. So I'm not sure if that would be something I'm seeing to favour a club. Those are just my 2 cents. But yeah, main point was I just feel like there's a whole bunch of information that isn't there.
Yeah, and just to give context to that, that's exactly the way I felt too, because when I went to that RSA meeting, they have a lot of information. Like I say, they've got the stack of paperwork and photos to me. It goes back a long, long time that I was unaware of too. But that's another conversation for another time.
Great. So there's a few of us here new to council. It seems to be another procrastination project that this council is involved in. And so where's the buck? Who's been dealing with this since? Who in council here has been dealing with this problem and hasn't fixed it? Why is this procrastination? Just fix the problems. We seem to be, whether it's sewage, whether it's this, procrastinating on stuff that needs to be fixed. And people are getting paid big money in this council to do jobs. If they're not doing it, we need to make some changes. So you keep push this to 2011.
Yeah.
Come on, if it's now 2026.
There wasn't identified as a problem in 2011.
Well,
but to your point,
man,
to your point, So council has a regulatory responsibility that when there is a dangerous structural building, and we are aware of it, we have to fulfill that responsibility. So right now in our district, there is a building in our district that is considered to be a dangerous structure, and we have served a notice on that building to that owner to fix that building. So that's our and we've done exactly the same thing here, because we can't go to a private property owner and say, you have a dangerous structure, you need to fix it, and then not do the same thing to a building or to a structure that's on our land.
So how long ago did we
So that was done, I can't remember when we put that notice on last year.
Hey, can I just interrupt? Sorry, and just to clarify on that then, and correct me if I'm wrong, but then on that theory then, we should issue ourselves one for the dangerous wall now that the engineer has said that.
That's what we've done.
On ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're in there.
Yeah.
We have to solve, like, you could argue legal responsibility, but I think the council has never, even though the council didn't build the wall, it has never not said that we have a role to play in this, because we own land that we were brought that has a structure on it. But to your point, I just want to come back to your point about why it's taking so long. So in one part, we've got a regulatory role, which we have to perform, which is to issue notices. So we're party to that. You know, we could debate about who owns what, but we're party to that because we know what we know. So that's number one, because we can't treat a private property owner differently than ourselves. So that's number one. Number two, if we make a decision in relation to this particular wall, that it could set a precedent, it may not. What we have to be conscious of is in making a decision on this wall, we've also got a property that's got another dangerous notice on it. And if we say, council says, oh, let's just get on and do it and not worry about the rationale as to why wouldn't that apply to this other property that's in our district? Why wouldn't it apply to, oh, sorry, as I'm just making the point, in making your decision on this, you have to be conscious of what the implications of it are. Now, we as a staff actually want to get this solved. It's been going on too long. What I'm trying to say to you, Councillor, is we are conscious of this other building, so we're just wanting a framework for this decision. That means that the next property that comes along, we can be very clear about what we're exposing our community to. So, number one, nobody on council has argued that we have a role to resolve here. The argument has been about, if you like, two things. Who's responsible for what? You know, what was the cause? And secondly, what's the share? How do we cost share it? Okay, that's where we're at. You would have seen and may have seen in the previous report, the initial estimates were done with 250 to 300,000. I mean, that's, you know, it was nowhere near the mark. So we totally agree as staff, not only from our regulatory responsibility, but also from the people who are involved in trying to solve this. We want to get it solved. Absolutely. This report is about providing a framework for you to make a decision that enables us, if you like, and I believe the report is very good in the sense that it gives you some decisions that you can make, which can then be transferable wherever this arises, okay? Because right now there is a building in our district that has got a building notice on it that says you need to fix this, and if they don't fix it, then we potentially have to go in and fix it to make it safe, and then we can recover the cost from the owner. So that's why we're careful about the framework for the decision.
I see that one as totally separate though, Manoa, because we're not part owners of it.
Well, look, I think there are reasons why that can be separate. I think that we've got to understand is that any member of the public or property owner is going to look at our decisions and they're going to say, was this transferable? I feel you have a report that enables you to make a decision within a framework that will give us that mitigation. That's what I feel. So I don't know if that answers your question, Greg. But sorry, can I just make a point to you, Grace, just about information, Councillor Bonner, in relation to the information. I said to the team, we've spent enough on consultants, we've spent enough on other things. We need to give council a framework to make a decision, and I feel that we've done that. I could spend more money trying to define stuff more, but it will cost money, and I think that money's better going into resolving the problem. That's my so to your point, and you know what will happen with that? We will get a report that says this, this, and this, and this, and our other partner in this will say we don't agree with that. They will get their report, and all we've done is spent more time and cost trying to get things to an nth degree, which I don't think you can in this job. I don't think in this case you will ever get absolute definition of exactly this did that and that did this. So again, I asked the team, can you put something in the report that at least council can reflect on and guide them with, again, the eye on other decisions that might come in the future?
Bruce, I'll go to James Thompson.
Thank you, Neresh. Your thoughts and mine differ quite considerably. But I'll say firstly that all I'm looking for is an outcome that will be fair and reasonable to the RSA and to our ratepayers in general. I think the report that has been presented here is very good. It's comprehensive, and it does give us a way forward. To Greg, some of the issue, I think, as far as time, is that we could criticise our own staff for not getting things done, but I don't think you'll find that it has been very easy to deal with the RSA and those that are discussing it in the negotiations. Now, we got a report back in November 24, and it was discussed here. Roger Lambeth, I think, presented it, and I was pretty hot at the time over it, and but I refrained from voicing my true thoughts at the time, because it was in that negotiation stage, and some of the things I would have said may have prejudiced the negotiations. Okay, so it's been going on for a long time. But if you look at this recommendation, it says confirm the full replacement of the RSA retaining wall as the preferred remedial option. I think it is the only option, really. If you look at it, the thing is 60 odd years old. It's as Dane, discussing it with Dane today, if that wall hadn't come out, all right, but probably everybody would be walking past it and think it's fine and dandy. But once you get a structural report and it says it's unsafe, it's unsafe. It's as simple as that. All right. So we've got that issue. Now you could say, and Brookfield's quite clear in clause 21. All right. They don't consider that it would be NPDC. We'd be pulled apart in a court of law. I don't think we would. All right. So I think number one, we can confirm that we should confirm the full replacement. Number two, there has to be some cost sharing arrangement. It is it's complicated because it's over the two sites. All right. But there has to, and if you look at the initial discussions with the RSA, they were willing to make a share or be prepared to share it. So there was concession at that stage that that it was there, right? It still is, right. So agree on a proposed cost. I think we should say we agree on determining the cost sharing agreement, right, based on property management boundaries and engineering assessment. Susan's come up with the 43, you know, and that might be different. It might be 30/70 or 70. You know, we don't know. I don't think, would that be fair? We can't really put a absolute figure on it at the moment, can we?
And my concern about putting an absolute figure on it, it'll take time and money.
Yeah, but we need to be and this gets back to Greg, we need to be getting going and getting the thing going. The argument at the end will be how it's cost shared. Okay. So number 3, authorise staff to proceed with the detailed design, procurement and ongoing stakeholder engagement. And that's where Ash talks about some locals say they may be able to come up with something that's more cost effective, right? You know, what you as staff need is the knowledge that we will back you in what you put forward. All right, that to me, that's how I see it there. Identify and approve the funding source. That's from Anaya. Yeah. All right. And we have had the suggestion that there could be is it a lien or whatever that could be put on. You know, so council may cover a portion of the RSA's funding shortfall, if you could call it, all right, with the knowledge as a ratepayer, and I'm talking as a general ratepayer now, that we do have an ability in if they were to close next month, you know, or the month after the work was done, we would have an ability to recover it. And I think that gives me comfort as a general ratepayer. All right. Perhaps I've said enough. Okay.
I thought you said it different.
No, it does differ.
I think I might be somewhere between the two views, maybe, but I don't know. But yeah, look, agree. I mean, I know we've said in the boardroom that we'd like to have this resolved by Anzac Day 26. I'll make sure I record the year, not 27, not 28, which is still pretty ambitious because it's interesting. I mean, you obviously read the Brookfield thing. I start to dim a little bit after that, you know, paragraph, whatever. But I do worry that we wouldn't pass the front page test. Yes. You know, and in terms of the court of public, you know, opinion. So, you know, I take that on board, and that's why I feel that we have some obligation to get onto this. You know, I can't expect it's been difficult for the staff to because it has been a negotiation. It's been a little bit of, but like you're saying, Bruce, what's the percentage of this, that,
350,
everything else? Yeah. And so, I mean, we could potentially say, well, you know, it's, you know, I mean, so we were looking at I suppose, the percentage of the ownership compared to the percentage of the blame, I suppose, in terms of what you know, what caused it, and clearly our stormwater drain was a contributing factor to it. You know, I'm not an engineer, as Manora's might say, and as well, but you know, like I say, I come back to that front page test. So I suppose my issue, well, not my issue, but when we say, hey, let's fix it, does that mean we're fixing and it is what it is? It looks like, and we're fixing that structure. So are we ripping that away? We're putting a new state, because that, you know,
that's part of number 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, sorry, that's part of number 3, isn't it?
Yeah. That's right. And I mean, obviously, because that also complicates it, doesn't it? Goes, oh, here's the design we think we can live with, and RSA contributing to it, which I believe it should be in some way. You know, there's got to be some agreement going forward, and I don't know how we speed that process up. I'm reasonably relaxed about the precedent that sets Manaia, compared to the other building. I acknowledge your concern about that, but I think this is a weird kind of mix of public and private. And I'd like to know, if the RSA, and back to that November 24 report, that they had acknowledged that they would contribute up to 100 grand of cash, plus, and I think putting whatever onto the title is logical as well. So cutting to the chase, what's that design going to look like? What's it going to cost? Is it a 50-50 split in terms of, let's say it's 800 grand, I don't know. So is that 400, which is 100 cash, 300 on the title? I'd love to get this sorted by Anzac Day. I don't know how we're going to, but I think we don't pass the front page test, and I kind of feel I don't know how much of that Brookfield stuff and that we carry on with. But I take your point, Manaia. I think we've spent enough money of all that stuff, and we need to now spend the money on actually fixing that stuff. So yeah.
And I believe there is a detailed design in there, on building the wall back to it's a similar state, but using different blocks.
Yes.
And also the conversations with local contractors that can supply that. There's a lot of indication out there in the public that they could even do some in kind as well, being local contractors. Obviously, everybody has a soft spot for our RSAs and what it represents in our communities too. So it's about, I think it's real. In my mind, it's relatively easy now because a lot of the work's been done. It'd be fair to say, and saying to Manaia the other day is, and we also had a contractor on site that was doing the pipe, saying that they've been looking at that and studying it, and they had it in their head how they would go about it, and didn't seem to think it's a huge thing. So it's about pulling the prices from them as soon as we can, and with the expectation, can it be done as sooner than later? That's the thing, and we can work out the other stuff to press. And then
yeah, I totally agree. It needs fixing and stuff like that. But I guess what I meant with the report is all this money, and all I get to read is water ingress was the cause of the thing. I'm like, if you paid that much, and there's 2 words that cover what happened, and there's a new councillor, that's what I've got to decide on water ingress. Like maybe some pipes or a pitcher or something like. Who did it? I don't think matters, but I feel like it could be more information than 2 words that tell me what I can decide on. Yeah, unless I'm missing a full report that I did not get.
Few thoughts I've had. I guess the thing for me is, if you took it away and you said it's not the RSA, it's your own personal property that happens to have a stormwater drain run past of this council, right? And if I see that pipe or whatever that stormwater has let go, and then I'm expecting council to put my wall back how it was, regardless of how that wall looks after that. Because that's the thing that you point to that says, I didn't have a problem with that wall before that pipe blew out. That's the first problem for me. And if council said, oh, we're going to replace that section of wall because that's where the drain was, and you'd be going, I didn't have a problem before your pipe blew. So that's a big one for me with that. If that pipe hadn't have blown, then I think that this is a much more straightforward case of going, here's the boundary, this is our wall, this is your wall, you do that, we do that. The fact that that pipe blew in the middle of their section of the wall, I can see where the RSA is coming from. I can see why that would get up your nose. And you'd be going, I didn't have a problem. Now I've got a problem because there's a big hole there where the pipe was. So that's another issue for me. I think there's still the part of the pipe that is around that is not the whole wall, and the whole wall is very old. So I don't necessarily believe that the RSA is completely off the hook on this, but I think the council's liability is way past 50%, given that half the wall or close to half the wall is So 40% of the wall is already ours, and we've stuffed a good section of the middle of their wall. I would be thinking that council's liability is at least 60% on the cost of this thing, right? If you get anything above 60% out of them, I think it's fine, but I think that that's fair. To my mind, that it starts at 60-40, somewhere around that. I'm going to put some numbers out there just so we can give you guys some direction and hopefully get moving on some stuff, right? So that's the first thing for me is council's liability is way past 50% in my mind, right? The other thing that I think too is that they have said about some cash coming forward, and they have said about being able to put a lien on property. Whatever that ratio ends up being, I think that if we said to the RSA, whatever cash you can come up with to put towards the wall, because that saves our ratepayers money now, then that halves the amount of money that we put on your lien, right? So if you can come up, if your contribution at whatever percentage it was going to be $200,000 as a lien, if you can come up with $100,000 in cash, then we'll forgo $200,000 of lien. So it's like it means because the problem with a lien is that we might never get the money, right? I would rather have $100 grand in my hand than $200,000 on a lien on a property that we might never see. So, and then it's RSA's job to go, this is what we can afford to give you up front, and then that's what we can afford to do. So that's some thoughts that I've had to try and get some money up front and where I kind of sit on who owes what on the wall. So hopefully that some of that is useful.
Thanks, Dave. Sue.
Just a couple of things. Point number one, it should never have got to this. And point number two, the two people that are going to go fairly quickly and negotiate with the RSA are, because we need to get that clearly stated to them.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to carry on a conversation with them. Could even be Mania with me.
But I'm just saying, you do that, you do that, you do that, and we need to get moving.
Just reading around what Mania is saying, he's right about the bigger picture. Because I've quite a few properties and we had a problem once with a common drain. You go back to the old plumbers and it was the common drain. I think that ruling's changed Mania. So if you've got a house and a house and there's a common drain coming from the top house through the middle house, and there's a problem at the middle house, the guy's sewage at the top is blocked. This is similar to this, isn't it? Because here, and this the thing is the area of failure are within the section of the wall, within the areas of failure are within the section of walls within the RSA's title. No areas of failure are within the section of the wall within the MPTC's title. The wall was not built by MPTC, and the wall was not built prior to MPTC acquiring ownership of the site. So you can go to the technicalities right what he says, because you can open a whole can of worms for the whole district. Hey, we have a moral obligation to the RSA. We do. I believe in that. We have a total moral obligation. But on technical things, this is a can of worms. Mate, it really is. And you go back to this common drain law, and you'll find, I'm not sure what it is now, but it was a can of worms back in those days. Mate, you've got your house up here, and this middle property blocks are fixed. Who's going to pay? You're going to dig up this guy's all his front lawn, his driveway. Who's going to pay for that? That's his driveway. That's my sewage blocked up here.
So I think
same thing.
I think I do agree. The mayor is correct. I think the way this report is framed is it potentially deals with other precedents because you've got that framework. So that's why I think the report is, I think it helps us in that situation.
We have a moral obligation to do.
Well, and it doesn't even take into consideration moral. It just says here's a calculation. So, and to the point about 60%, I mean, in the range we came to 57, but we're not that precise. Can I just check something though? I was just working on your calc, and let's take a worst case scenario. Let's hope it's not worst case. If it was 800k, and we were 60%. That would mean the RSA would be 320,000. So if they gave us 100,000, I'm just trying to get your logic.
Yeah.
That would leave them 220k left. How much of that would we forgo?
So what I'm saying is if you had, what did you say, 330?
320 is their contribution.
So if they were to give us half of that, 160,000,
Oh, right.
we'd forgo the whole lot.
Oh, okay.
You know what
Okay, I just want to understand the count.
I mean, that's just
Yes,
the rationale. Yeah, it's basically what I'm saying is that I believe it's twice as valuable to have the cash in the hand as it is to have the lien over the building. But that ratio might change too. I don't know. But it's an idea to throw out there to encourage the council to pay us more money up front than the lien on their property, but also be able to take into account what they can afford to pay us versus the lien on the property.
Do you know what?
Just going back, can I just go back to what Greg, the comment you made though? The problem is now an engineer has done an assessment on the whole wall, including our section of the wall.
Yep.
In hindsight, the engineer's report should have been on the damage section only. That's something we can learn from, but it hasn't been. It's on the whole wall. Now our section of wall has been deemed dangerous, and this goes back to Brookfields, is now that we know, we can't unknow, and that needs to be done.
Ash, on that matter, I would disagree with you. The structural engineer would be putting his own reputation and integrity and on the line if he only provided and he said, I'm doing that, and he actually knew that the rest of the wall was crap, right? So that I don't think you'd get a structural engineer to do that.
Apparently there's what should have happened coming from another engineer. But anyway,
I don't.
I'm not an engineer, so I'm not an engineer. Okay, guys.
Can I say that what we need out of this, all right, is an ability for whoever is going to negotiate this to feel confident that when whatever comes back will be acceptable to us on what we've been discussing today, right? Because we want to get the damn thing done, all right? The percentage of who pays what and what have you are secondary to it, all right? Because we've agreed we need to do it. Is that right? Have we agreed that?
Could we, based on that, like, would it be helpful if we said, like, show of hands, like, who's comfortable just for the negotiating going forward? Like, does everyone believe that the RSA should have some money involved in fixing the walls? Like, they should be contributing something to it? What's that?
Well, this
just to get an idea. Should council be paying something? And then is our liability 60% or more? Like, then that gives some ideas of where to go.
I think the first thing is that you need to get some prices, because as soon as we say the council's going to cough up 80%, the prices might go up 80%. That's what happens. But don't go wait for council to get paid heaps.
A rough idea of the ratio.
We need to get a price first. We need to get prices first, and then we decide how we fund it, and we'll decide around here. We'll fund it, but at waste of time saying we're going to throw whatever at it, someone's going to come and price it, they're going to go, oh yeah, well I can make it that much, no worries. But so that doesn't happen.
No, we're not.
So one of the comments that I know that may have relayed to me is that local contractors have said to the RSA, we can do this really easily, and you've got your potential, and inferring that our price is too high. Now, we don't want to pay what we don't have to.
No. So you can get some price.
So I would be after a resolution, part of an extra resolution that authorises us to do a specialised procurement for those contractors. Now, all I would say is I've been in a position before where contractors have said something, and then when I've asked it for in writing, it hasn't happened. So, but I'm happy to go. I'm happy to go and talk to them.
We have to do it. Vinny?
Just the point on the current relationship with the RSA and where we're at in the negotiations and who's been involved in the negotiations, because they have said that they're willing to pay 100 grand. Is that it? Are they saying we actually, that's giving you a bone sort of thing? Like, I just want to get a sense of what the feel is from, like, the discussions that have been had with the RSA. Do they actually that we're completely reliable and that 100K is just them contributing to help get the ball rolling, or do they have part?
That was very early on.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of money. They don't, as in all RSAs around the country, they're struggling. I did reach it up to them that I said I'd heard there was talk around it because I had nothing in contrary. It's only verbally relayed to me, and yeah, it was like whether they had that much or not that much, I'm not 100% sure. But I did mention to them that there was the possibility of putting a lien on the title, because that it has been done in the past, where the council can recoup the money if it stops being an RSA.
Those clause 2 and 4 gives that.
So I think what we need to do though, guys, is that, because otherwise we're going to be part of the problem and maybe talk about it for another 2 years. So I think the recommendation, I think the feeling around the room is that we want to get on with this and get it done. Is that I'm getting headlines from everyone? Bruce, you didn't think we need to get this done?
Absolutely. That goes back to November 24 when I was quite capable.
No, that's cool. Hang on, just keep that thought. I think we need to go out to pricing with it, like Greg said. So we'll go back to those local captives and says that both verbally, because they know what's involved. They've obviously priced the materials up themselves, so they know what's doing. The conversations I've had with engineers, it doesn't seem to be a particularly hard job. So I think, and now we've got a contractor that was working on site, looking at it and going through it in their head of how they'd approach it, and went, yeah, no big deal. So we need to go back to them, like when I said, and get pricing with the instructions that we want this done as soon as possible. What's their scope? What's their availability? Can they fit it in?
And perhaps we are possibly in a joint venture with the RSA on it, so that they don't think we're up for total payment.
Yeah, exactly. And and they're probably aware of that too. I'm sure they are, actually, because this is where they're saying that would be
so that's
inclined as well, but they don't want to build the whole thing for free, okay. So I think that's, in my mind, that's all we need for today, because I don't see the point of us coming up with figures in our head of 800 grand. Well, then that leaves 300 grand at 60% or 70%, whatever it is. I think we just park that side of it for now.
So, Mania, did you want something in there about the procurement?
I wanted including approval to go direct to local producers and outside our policy.
So yes. Number 3, that you is authorised staff to proceed with detailed design.
Well, we've got that.
Special procurement.
Specialised procurement and ongoing stakeholder engagement.
Yes.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
Yep. Yes, with that.
Yes,
So sorry, we will need to do a little bit more work on that detailed design for that option, which is the replacing like.
But there is something there.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's okay.
So that's great.
Yeah.
So like us to say that we have a specialised team that will go and negotiate, because I think that's really important. We get in there fast and start talking to the RSA about what you're doing. Sorry, Mania, looking at you.
No, it's okay. I mean, I think the team have done, Fiona and Lapa have fronted directly, picked this up, and they've taken the heat on behalf of all of us. And then the mayor's come in as well. So they've done a great job, I think, to rebuild relationships. So I don't want it to be a reflection on, they've done a great job.
Okay. No.
They're looking for brand new, and I'm happy to go. I'm happy to go.
It's just that we need somebody with the numbers to start negotiating. So we
No, we need the prices first,
and
then you go and
the
negotiate.
percentage doesn't make too much difference.
Well, if they can get Lotto's charity funding, they can get a lot of money out of funding.
Oh, yeah, that's another conversation.
Not for them, they are a
Yeah, but just
why?
well, they may not. But anyway, we've just got to focus back on this recommendation.
Right, and that there. But look, authorised staff to proceed with it and the engagement. I don't think we need to say who should be in that team at the moment. All right, that's we just wanted to go ahead.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I confirm, sorry, that if we do get a good price from that, are we able to go ahead, or do we have to take it back to council?
We'd like to say,
You can send us an email.
February though, so that's quite
Just
a
an
long
email,
time.
quick email out,
Yeah,
and then we'll get consensus around that, because it could be over the break.
yeah.
And not all places shut down for 2 months, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's probably a good time to do it. It's one
Exactly.
around town.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, guys,
One more?
Well, sorry, that then leaves the cost sharing apportionment, all right?
Discussion.
that comes later, yeah. We've got to get a price.
Yes, you've got to get a price
Figures to go
and get
back.
things going. I think you'll find that you'll be, yeah, all right, so,
Okay, happy with that, as
yeah.
long as.
so,
we
so
keep talking.
are we gonna just do 1 and 3 at the moment then?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so.
You could leave it all in there.
Yeah.
Get to it on the order that it comes up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm happy with, I was happy with the 4, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Or it has been 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. Happy to leave that?
Gary's there, Gary's.
I'll-
I was just going to make a comment there. Given that our meetings broadcast, I think that the people at RSA are going to be really happy with the discussions that have been going on today in terms of support for our commitment to getting something done on this project. So,
Yeah, thank you, Gary.
to bring it come to.
I'm happy to leave the recommendation. And second, all in favour, please say aye. Opposed? Gary, thanks, guys. Awesome. Just gonna get on with this one and get it home. Excellent. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, thank you.
October financial report. AJ.
He's online.
Oh, AJ's on mine. AJ.
Oh, happy.
I think it's RJ.
RJ.
He will take either.
He does take either.
He'll take either, but
RJ.
Kira, Mia, Kira, I'm sorry, I'm not feeling very well, so I might sound a bit awkward, so just mind me. Sorry. But either way, it doesn't bother me whether it's AJ or RJ, as long as you can spell it correctly if you say RJ.
Okay. What do you prefer though?
Phil.
It's a tough question, Mia Ish. I would love if everybody could call me Ajay and they spell it right. So
What was that again? Sorry, I just missed that.
if they call me Ajay and they spell it right. Just like Arthur, just like in Arthur, there's a silent R.
Awesome. Thank you, RJ. And yeah, I'm sad to hear that you're not feeling very well. You look like you're struggling a bit, mate. I know what that's like, mate. I called the Cold Greg Councillor Greg over there.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's fun. Thank you, RJ. And we got Lanya doing that. All right, please.
He's got to lead. Is Lani going to lead RJ?
You want me to lead RJ? Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so sorry, RJ's not very well today, so so October monthly report. I can only start with a very big apology that you're getting this so long in December. But yeah, with the audit delay and what have you, it's sort of eaten to a time that we wanted to devote to this kind of thing. So we're going to be more timely going forward. I guess this, for some of you, this will be the first time you've seen our sort of monthly reporting. So I probably just wanted to give it a little bit of a heads up as to what we're providing here, because it is quite different to what you might see in another area. Okay, so our focus in the monthly report is sort of around the funding impact statement, which is a statement that's quite unique for local government. We have
quite embraced the funding impact statement here at council because we think it tells a much better story as to what's going on sort of at the ground level. It's sort of the funding impact statement is a little bit of a combo of the income statement, the balance sheet, and the cash flow sort of all in one. It looks at, in terms of your operating, it looks at what funding we're getting in to cover our operating costs, and then it looks at how we've actually spent it. And then the same in terms of capital, it looks at what funding we've got in, like development contributions and subsidies, and how we're spending that capital funding. So that's sort of what the funding impact statement is. We like it because it's more like it doesn't have comparison to an income statement, for example, which has things like valuation gains and things like that. That in terms of our day-to-day operations, yeah, they kind of cloud things, I guess. So. Yeah, so anyway, so our funding impact statement, so that we show it sort of in a graphical way. So the idea is it's sort of a bit of a dashboard. So if you're not really a numbers person, you can look at the graphs and get a feel for, you know, are things roughly on track? So if we're 33% of the way through the year, then the graph should be around 33%. And if they're not, we're explaining why they're not. And then we've highlighted anything in red where the sort of areas were a bit, you know, areas of concern or emerging issues. I guess I just want to reiterate too that this is, we prepare this report for you. So if you're not getting what you need in these reports, then absolutely give us that feedback and let us know what you do need in these reports. We sort of constantly try to work away and get it to where we want it to be, but yeah, we definitely need your feedback too, meeting your needs. Yeah, so I guess on an activity level, looking at these graphs, there's not a lot of red, so that's a good sign at this stage. I think the red areas are coming through where we're delayed in some of our capital work that we get programmed. The second part of the graph is, the second part of the report brings all the activities together and shows you sort of the whole of council picture. That's the on page 9 of the report. It brings together the whole picture of the funding impact statement. Yeah, I guess I'd, if anyone has any questions at this point that they'd like to make, if you like, there.
So on slide 1, can you just explain to me how to interpret the graph? Because you've got the actual 1.9 budget 0.9. Then the graphs you've year to date. Oh no, I've got it. I just needed to say it out loud.
So Lalia, how these monthly reports, how susceptible are these to timing issues? Yeah. When you've got, you know, you've got your annual budget, then you've got your year-to-date budget, year-to-date actual, but then, you know, if you're tracking behind or ahead or whatever, you know, is a payment gone through early or revenue received late? Or...
Yeah, there is a little bit of that. Yeah, I mean, we try to line things up where we can, but yeah, there's often things that creep through, and that we have things like, for example, with dog registrations, they're all paid in sort of June, July. So that sort of acts as an issue the whole way through the year until you get to the end of the year and you've sort of you know, recognised all that revenue. So it's yeah, so there are a few things like that, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I had a couple of questions, but I left them to Manana to what pass them off to anybody else, whatever, just minor stuff, or just again personal clarification.
So if there's no further questions, have we got someone else? We'll move the report readings.
So one more, just how do we interpret your rates report too? As in, it's just, is it?
Sorry, I haven't got that one yet. Yeah. So the rates report is really like we're keen to see, firstly, how we're tracking against collecting. You know, people haven't paid their rates by the end of June. then that becomes their arrears for next year. So we want to get on that and make sure people are, paying the arrears off. And then we look at the current year's rates. So we sort of look at those two things separately. So in terms of our arrears collection, which is the first part, so we're saying at October, we've collected 34% of last year's arrears, whereas at this time last year, we collected 41%. So we're sort of a bit behind in that aspect of the collection. And I think what it's showing us is that where it's been difficult to collect rates, it's not getting any easier. I think is the key message there. People that are behind are getting more behind, I guess. In terms of the current rates, so we're actually doing slightly better than last year, which is I was surprised to see, to be fair. Because pretty tough out there. Our rates team have some very difficult conversations every day with their rate payers.
Is that from more people on automated payments, do you think? Would that contribute to that?
Yeah, we've actually got this new app that's come out called Payable, which allows people to sort of set their own direct debits and modify them. They can if they want to skip a payment, they can do that kind of thing as well. It allows them to do it all on their phone or device. So yeah, we're really keen to get people on Payable. It's a really good way to.
Does that work just for council, or does that work for bills and stuff as well?
It's an app that we're using for our rates.
Oh, so it's council.
Yeah.
Sorry, one more. I don't mean to monopolise you, but interest rate risk profile, the difference between debt forecast and your total fixed rate, is that floating? And is that the total fixed rate, is that what we've gone out to about 2031 in the total fixed rates? Is that how I'm interpreting that, or?
Yes, I think so.
So we've got a fair chunk of change in there on a floating rate.
Yeah, we tend to take our LGFA debt at a floating rate, and then we fix it using our interest rate swaps. Yeah, so we're sort of we're with the transition to Waikato waters, we're sort of having to manage our risks and stuff against what's going to happen when that goes through as well. So probably when we come back in the new year, we'll start reporting on both scenarios. It's quite a difficult transition period, I suppose, to be managing those two things. But you'll see we're looking at normally we take our debt and we make sure it's spread over a funding maturity profile, so we're not, all our debt doesn't come up at one time.
Yeah.
So we're trying to spread that, but because of the pending date for transition to Waikato water, we're actually taking debt at on a shorter basis. So it's sort of over 1 year. We're using commercial paper to do that. So that actually puts us outside of our limits that we've set in our policy. But we changed the policy just in September to allow us to do that and to come back to you to get sort of retrospective approval to sit outside of our policy, because of the fact that it's what we need to be doing for this transition period. So I think it's quite common amongst other councils that are sort of moving the same way we are.
And there's no further questions, or after those Barringer questions?
Yeah, I'm going to be happy to.
Excellent. And if I get someone that will second it.
Yes.
Dave. And all in favour, please say aye. Opposed? Carried. Thanks, mate.
Okay.
Thanks, RJ. Thanks, RJ.
Thanks, RJ. Not RJ.
Okay, I'll now declare the meeting closed, and we'll break for